the Iceberg CEO's personal bodyguard. Beauty, is there some misunderstanding between us? Chen coughed twice, looking at the woman on the bed wrapped in a blanket, his face showing a helpless expression. Last night, Chen had just returned to Zhonghai and had chosen a bar nearby to enjoy the nightlife. By coincidence, this beauty was also at the bar drinking, and she had been drugged by some thugs at the bar. In such a situation, Chen could not stand by and let it happen. He easily dealt with the thugs with ill intentions and rescued the woman from danger. Originally, Chen planned to book a room and leave after making sure the woman was safe, but he had underestimated the power of the aphrodisiac. Chen, a man with strong blood and passion, had been somewhat coaxed by the alcohol, and under the circumstances, he found himself yielding to the woman's passion. He had thought they were both people from the same world, but when Chen saw the bloodstain on the bed sheet, he immediately realized something was wrong. This woman, could she be a virgin? Misunderstanding. What did you do to me last night? Don't you know yourself? Su Qingchang suddenly lifted her head, glaring at Chen, her eyes full of sorrow. She had kept her purity for more than 20 years, only to lose it in such a ridiculous manner to a complete stranger. Su Qingchang couldn't accept this. If eyes could kill, Chen could be sure he would already be torn apart by the gaze of this beauty. As she lifted her head, Chen truly saw her face. Beneath her curved eyebrows, her clear, stubborn, and sorrowful eyes, with delicate features, made her undoubtedly one of the most beautiful women Chen had ever seen. In the past, such beauty could have been considered as breathtaking, a beauty capable of toppling kingdoms. Beauty, I wasn't the one who initiated it last night. You can't blame the good guy here, Chen shrugged, a helpless expression on his face. You? Su Qingchang's face turned a deep shade of blue. Though she had lost control last night, her mind had been crystal clear throughout. In some sense, she had indeed been the one to take the initiative, despite being under the influence of the drug. But to call Chen a good guy? Such a shameless man couldn't he possibly be a good person? Although it was a beautiful misunderstanding, now that it's happened, Chen, am not someone who shirks responsibility. If you have any requests, feel free to tell me. Chen spread his hands, displaying the responsibility a man should have. When Su Qingchang heard the name Chen, she paused for a moment, then lowered her head, a confused expression on her face. Chen watched as Su Qingchang fell silent, unsure of what to say next. The room fell into an awkward silence. Turn around. After a long moment, Su Qingchang lifted her head and coldly looked at Chen. What are you going to do? Chen subconsciously asked as he saw the coldness in her eyes. I'm going to get dressed. Su Qingchang gritted her teeth and said. Chen's face turned slightly embarrassed, and he immediately turned around. He heard the sound of clothes rustling behind him. Not long later, Su Qingchang, wearing high heels, forced herself to walk past Chen, limping due to the pain below. In the black outfit she wore, her perfect figure was fully showcased, and the cold aura around her contrasted sharply with the fragile look she had earlier. Beauty, do you want me to help? Chen said with a friendly smile. Get lost. Su Qingchang glanced at Chen coldly, ignoring his good intentions, and walked out of the room, slamming the door shut. She really is an interesting woman, Chen smiled, then turned and opened the curtains, letting sunlight pour in. Looking out at the familiar scenery, Chen felt a pang of nostalgia. He hadn't expected to return to Zhonghai after so many years. After a quick tidy-up, Chen had a simple breakfast at their hotel restaurant, then took a taxi straight to his destination, the Haitian Tower. Should be here, I wonder if the old man made any arrangements, Chen muttered as he gazed up at the towering skyscraper, his face showing some helplessness. Chen had lost both of his parents at a young age and had been adopted by the old man he referred to as a father. To Chen, this old man was as good as his biological parents. Chen never planned on returning to the country so early. Who would have thought the old man had already arranged a marriage for him one he couldn't refuse? The old man even told him over the phone that if he didn't go through with this marriage, he would never see him again. Reluctantly, Chen had come to meet his fiancé, who had been arranged by the old man. I wonder what kind of wife this old man picked out for me, Chen said with a faint smile, casually walking into the Haitian Tower. Excuse me, may I help you? The receptionist, elegantly dressed in a black office suit with delicate features and a sweet smile, greeted him warmly. I'm here to see your company's president, Su Qingchang, Chen leaned on the counter and said with a smile. Mr. Su? The receptionist hesitated for a moment, then her expression turned respectful. Su Qingcheng, known as the Iceberg Beauty, was the president of Su Group, one of Zhonghai's most prominent companies. She was well known, and many young men wanted to meet her. It wasn't something just anyone could do. Even for business meetings, appointments were required in advance. This young man in front of her didn't seem ordinary. "Hello, sir. Do you have an appointment?" the receptionist asked. "Appointment? Of course. Just tell her that her fiancé, Chen, is here to see her." "She'll know who I am," Chen said nonchalantly. The old man had told him to come today, so this was essentially an appointment. Su's fiancé? The receptionist was stunned. She had never heard of Su Qingcheng having a fiancé. If this news got out, it would cause quite a stir in Zhonghai. "Sir, are you joking?" The receptionist frowned, thinking Chen was a prankster. "Joke? Do I look like the kind of person who jokes? If you waste time here, be careful of getting a heavy dismissal letter from your boss," Chen said with a smile, looking at the receptionist. Seeing that Chen didn't seem like he was joking, the receptionist became serious and quickly dialed the phone. "Secretary Lin, this is Xiao Shui at the front desk. There's a Mr. Yi here, who says he has an appointment with Su Zong. He says he is Su Zong's fiancé." Millimeter hum, understood. "Hello, Mr. Yi. Please wait here for a moment." After hanging up the phone, the receptionist looked at Chen respectfully. "Xiao Shui, don't be so formal. We might be colleagues soon." Chen glanced at the receptionist's name tag and smiled. "Colleagues?" Xiao Shui was a bit surprised. It was well past the company's recruitment period, and they didn't require the president to personally oversee hiring. Could this young man be a relative of one of the directors? Just then, the sound of high heels echoed in the lobby. Chen turned and saw a coldly elegant woman in a professional suit walking briskly toward him. Chapter 2, Is It Really You? As the woman in business attire walked towards them, the atmosphere in the lobby instantly became tense. All the employees straightened up, showing a serious attitude towards their work. Although Lin Mingyu, as Su Qingcheng's secretary, didn't hold much real power, her position in Su Group was quite high. "You're Su Qingcheng?" Chen looked up and briefly examined the approaching woman. She seemed decent, but nowhere near as stunning as the national beauty described by the old man over the phone. "I'm Su's secretary. Su is upstairs. Please follow me." Lin Mingyu glanced at Chen, her expression calm, though a flicker of disappointment flashed in her eyes. The man who claimed to be Su Qingcheng's fiancé seemed extremely ordinary, nowhere near the type of man who would match someone like Su Qingcheng. "Shui, we'll talk later," Chen casually said to Feng Shui, before following Lin Mingyu into the elevator. Since it was working hours, the elevator was empty, with only Chen and Lin Mingyu inside. Lin Mingyu kept stealing glances at Chen, curious about what made this so-called fiancé of Su Qingcheng so special. "I say, if you want to look, just do it openly. Don't tell me you've got some interest in me. I should warn you, I'm already taken." Chen glanced at Lin Mingyu and said with a serious expression. Lin Mingyu's face stiffened, clearly caught off guard by Chen's words. "Who's interested in you?" "Stop talking nonsense," Lin Mingyu gritted her teeth. "Well, that's fine by me. I've got plenty of good traits, but one flaw: I can't say no to people." Chen sighed and smiled in self-mockery. Lin Mingyu's face reddened with anger. She stared at Chen, momentarily lost for words. She'd seen narcissistic men before, but never someone this extreme. "Oh my god, this is supposed to be Su Qingcheng's future fiancé?" "I see we've arrived, Secretary Lin," Chen said as the elevator doors opened. He stepped out first. Lin Mingyu took a deep breath, forcing herself to suppress her anger, and followed him out of the elevator, her high heels clicking as she walked. As she passed by Chen, she shot him a glare before quickly striding forward. "Not much of a chest, but a pretty big temper," Chen muttered under his breath. Lin Mingyu stiffened, fighting the urge to slap Chen, but managed to stay calm due to her professional training. "Go in. Su is waiting for you inside," Lin Mingyu said, standing at the door of the president's office, her eyes cold as she looked at Chen. If looks could kill, Chen would surely be reduced to pieces by now. Chen ignored Lin Mingyu's frosty demeanor and walked into the office with ease. As soon as he entered, a faint fragrance greeted him. The office wasn't large but was decorated with great elegance. The crystal chandelier on the ceiling, the tall redwood bookshelves, all conveyed a sense of luxury and grandeur. Hanging plants like ivy and narcissus added some life to the space. Chen's eyes traveled to the desk at the far end. Behind it sat a woman in a black, form-fitting business suit, her cold eyes locked onto him. Her stunning features exuded a chill so intense that Chen could feel it from just a glance. "It's you?" Chen stared at the woman in front of him, his face filled with surprise. This was the first time he had met Su Qingcheng, but to his astonishment, she was the woman he'd had a fateful encounter with the previous night. Su Qingcheng also looked at Chen with a complex expression. She never expected that fate would bring them together like this. She had once considered opposing the engagement arranged by her grandfather, but in the end, it all came back to this moment. "Didn't he expect you to be my fiancé? Seems fate really works in strange ways, giving us this unexpected encounter," Chen said as he approached Su Qingcheng, a smile on his face. It wasn't until this moment that Chen truly took a close look at Su Qingcheng. As her name suggested, she was indeed a national beauty. "Looks like the old man did something right for once." "Stop right there." Su Qingcheng glared at Chen as he approached, gritting her teeth. "Though it's our first time meeting, I think fate has already made arrangements for us. Since we can't refuse, why not just accept it?" Chen said, placing both hands on the desk with a casual smile. "I don't believe in fate. I only believe in myself," Su Qingcheng said through gritted teeth. "If you can break the engagement, I'm not opposed to it. But a man as excellent as me is hard to come by. You'll be hard-pressed to find someone like me again," Chen shrugged nonchalantly. Su Qingcheng glared at him with fiery eyes. If she could break the engagement, she would never have let Chen stand in this office. Nor would she have experienced the absurd events of the previous night. Su Qingcheng took a deep breath, calming herself. "Let us talk," she said, adopting a negotiating posture. "Aren't we already talking?" Chen replied with a smirk. Su Qingcheng took a few documents from the desk and tossed them in front of Chen. "What's this?" Chen picked up one of the documents, which happened to be Su Qingcheng's personal profile. "This is my personal information. Since I've agreed to the engagement, I think we should get to know each other a bit more," Su Qingcheng said, her expression still cold. "Got into Peking University at 16, entered Harvard at 20. No wonder you can run such a big company. You're quite the academic," Chen said, reading through Su Qingcheng's profile. He couldn't help but comment on her impressive achievements. By any standard, Su Qingcheng's resume was perfect. In many ways, it was the ideal career profile for a successful professional woman. "And you?" Su Qingcheng exhaled deeply, her cold eyes still fixed on Chen. "Compared to someone like you, my background is pretty much nothing to brag about. I graduated high school, joined the military, and just got out recently." Chen set the profile down, his expression neutral. Su Qingcheng frowned slightly. This wasn't the answer she was expecting. From the carefree attitude on Chen's face, Su Qingcheng could tell there was more to his story than what he let on. However, since Chen didn't want to share, she didn't press further. After all, their relationship was, at its core, a contractual marriage. "This is the marriage agreement I drafted. If you have no objections, please sign it," Su Qingcheng said, taking a document from the pile and placing it in front of Chen. Chapter 3, Are You Getting Personal? Marriage Agreement. Chen raised the corner of his mouth with a playful smile. After all, they would be living under the same roof in the future, and with their current relationship, there were indeed some things that needed to be clarified in advance. This also seemed to align with Su Qingcheng's personality. Chen picked up the marriage agreement and glanced at it, slightly furrowing his brows. Some of the stipulations in the agreement weren't too unreasonable. For example, it stated that without her consent, he couldn't enter her room, he shouldn't dress improperly at home, and they couldn't publicly reveal their marital relationship. If these rules were violated, it would result in divorce. Chen skimmed through the agreement, noting that these were mostly trivial matters that wouldn't affect him much. Moreover, the contract was only valid for 1 year. This contract is valid for a year. After that, I'll propose a divorce. By then, I would have fulfilled the marriage arrangement Grandpa made. Su Qingcheng looked up at Chen, her eyes cold. "I have no major objections to this agreement, but but there is one clause I find inappropriate. Yi Chen put the marriage agreement down and smiled faintly. Which one do you find unreasonable? Su Qingcheng furrowed her brows, looking at Yi Chen, unsure of what he was up to now. Take the second one for example. If we're married, we're naturally going to live together. We're both adults, and you know, a guy like me, full of youthful vigor, can't possibly ignore a beautiful woman like you. If one day emotions run high, I'll have to address it, don't you think? We'll have the title of husband and wife, but if you don't fulfill your duties as a wife, that seems a bit unreasonable, Yi Chen said, looking at Su Qingcheng with a playful glint in his eyes. Su Qingcheng froze for a moment, her face instantly flushing red. A surge of anger seemed to rise in her cold eyes. Yi Chen, if you go any further, I'll go down with you. Su Qingcheng suddenly stood up, like an enraged tigress, grabbing a nearby paper-cutting knife and pointing it at Yi Chen, her expression clearly showing that if he pushed any further, she'd take drastic action. At this moment, Su Qingcheng felt like she was losing her mind. She had suddenly acquired a fiancé she had never met before. Her long-preserved first time had inexplicably been taken away by him. This was hard for the strong-willed Su Qingcheng to accept. She had already felt utterly humiliated, and now, how could she bear Yi Chen's further provocation? You look even more beautiful when you're angry than when you're cold. Yi Chen looked at Su Qingcheng, who was ready to lash out at him, and couldn't help but praise her with a hint of amusement. I'll fight you. Su Qingcheng couldn't tolerate such humiliation, gritting her teeth as she glared at Yi Chen. She looked like a furious mother tiger, ready to go down with her enemy. Careful with that, it's dangerous. You don't want to hurt yourself, Yi Chen said, without even looking, the paper-cutting knife having already appeared in his own hands. You? Su Qingcheng hadn't had a chance to speak when Yi Chen interrupted her. I have no objection to the marriage agreement. Yi Chen picked up a pen from the side and signed the agreement with elegant strokes. Su Qingcheng's emotions were now highly unstable. If he kept teasing her, there was no telling whether this woman might actually go so far as to physically attack him. Su Qingcheng took a deep breath and tried to suppress her growing fury, looking at the signed marriage agreement with a complex expression. From this moment onward, Yi Chen was her nominal husband. Of course, only nominally. Since you've signed the agreement, I hope you'll stick to the terms, Su Qingcheng said coldly, looking at Yi Chen. Based on the brief interaction they had, Su Qingcheng seriously doubted whether this man in front of her would keep his word. I, Yi Chen, have always been a man of my word. Since I've signed, I'll definitely follow the rules between us, Yi Chen said, his face serious. Let us hope so. Su Qingcheng put away the agreement. Once the legal team at Su Group took over, the contract would have legal binding. Since we've signed the marriage agreement, I suppose we're officially a couple now. How about finding me a position in the company? Having a CEO wife is nice, at least I won't have to look for a job, Yi Chen smiled, looking at Su Qingcheng. You don't have a job? Su Qingcheng frowned slightly. I just returned from abroad, so I don't have a job yet, Yi Chen shrugged casually. Mingyue, come in. Su Qingcheng furrowed her brows and called for Lin Mingyu, who had been waiting outside. President Su, you called for me. As soon as Lin Mingyu heard the call, she quickly pushed the door open and stepped in, eyeing Yi Chen warily. Though the CEO's office had excellent soundproofing, Lin Mingyu still caught some noises from outside. In her mind, Yi Chen's image had already taken a major hit. This man, so improper, alone with the CEO in the office, she couldn't help but feel a little concerned. Are there any vacant positions in the company? Su Qingcheng asked, glancing at Lin Mingyu. Not many. There was a recent recruitment, but there's still one opening. The deputy head of the finance department resigned due to personal reasons, and we haven't found a suitable replacement yet. Lin Mingyu thought for a moment before answering. Deputy head of the finance department. That position works for me. I was a math prodigy back in elementary school, and everyone said I was a genius. I could definitely handle the deputy head of finance. Since it's vacant, I'll take it, Yi Chen nodded slightly, as though the role was tailor-made for him. This. Lin Mingyu was utterly stunned by Yi Chen's narcissism. Are there any other positions? Su Qingcheng ignored Yi Chen's words. The finance department was a critical one in the company. If Yi Chen took over the deputy position, the company might face serious issues the next day. Actually, the janitor in the logistics department quit yesterday, so we're short a cleaner, Lin Mingyu glanced at Yi Chen and said softly. A cleaner. Yi Chen's voice suddenly rose sharply. Lin Mingyu, are you getting personal? Are you asking me to be a janitor? Chapter for Su Qingcheng, don't go too far. Yi Chen highly suspected that Lin Mingyu was seeking revenge for her personal grudge and was retaliating against his previous ridicule. Although Yi Chen was indifferent to this position. But what is a cleaner? He is the northern god of war and the lord of Yarma Palace, but he became a cleaner after returning to China? If those brothers knew about this, how would Yi Chen still have the face to stand there? If this gets out, everyone will laugh their heads off. The logistics department is indeed short of a cleaner. As for whether you can be a cleaner, it is up to General Manager Su to arrange it. Lin Mingyu glanced at Yi Chen, a smug look on her face. You were talking nonsense just now, but now you know how powerful I am. Su Qingcheng looked at Yi Chen's deflated expression, and the corners of her mouth slightly raised. It was rare to see Yi Chen being humiliated, and Su Qingcheng's originally angry mood suddenly eased a lot. Su Qingcheng, if you ask me to be a cleaner, I will go on strike. You are simply going too far. A gentleman can be killed but not humiliated. Yi Chen looked at Su Qingcheng and said unhappily. Are there any other positions? Su Qingcheng glanced at Yi Chen. Of course, she would not let Yi Chen work as a cleaner. After all, he is her husband in name only. If she lets Yi Chen work as a cleaner, she will lose face. If Yi Chen causes any trouble, it will be troublesome enough. It seems the security department is still short of a few security guards. Lin Mingyu thought for a moment and said casually. I say, your Su Group is such a big company, is it possible that there are not a few normal positions? Yi Chen said with an unhappy look on his face, it's either a cleaner or a security guard. Do you want me to guard the gate of your Su Group? You are too vindictive. How can you lead the company to positive development? He is a tall and strong man. Even if he cannot be a department leader, he cannot be a gatekeeper. Although the security job is extremely leisurely, it is barely suitable for Yi Chen's leisurely personality. But if those brothers knew that he was guarding the gate of Su Group, wouldn't they laugh at him to death? Given that Lin Mingyu and Su Qingcheng have such a strong desire for revenge, Yi Chen cannot just sit there and surrender. We must never encourage this unhealthy trend. Su Qingcheng felt a headache after hearing what Yi Chen said. Is the marketing department still short of an assistant? Su Qingcheng frowned slightly and looked at Lin Mingyu. Minister Chen is still short of an assistant and has been recruiting recently, but has not found a suitable candidate yet. Lin Mingyu nodded. You will be the assistant in the marketing department. Start working now. Su Qingcheng did not allow Yi Chen to refuse, and looked at Lin Mingyu and said, take her to report to Minister Chen. Yes, Mr. Su. Lin Mingyu nodded. Marketing assistant. Yi Chen didn't care too much about the position. As long as it's not a cleaner, Yi Chen can accept it. Assistant to the director of the marketing department is at least a minor official. Okay, I reluctantly accept this position. Yi Chen nodded with slight satisfaction, picked up the slightly cold coffee on the table and took a sip. Not bad, top quality Blue Mountain, but it has too much sugar, too sweet and greasy. Yi Chen smacked his lips and made a brief comment. This is my coffee cup. Su Qingcheng gritted her teeth and glared at Yi Chen with a cold face. We are an old married couple, what's the difference between you and me? Yi Chen glanced at Su Qingcheng and chuckled, don't drink too much cold coffee early in the morning. It's not good for our children. Lin Mingyu, who was standing aside, was stunned when she heard Yi Chen's teasing. She just stood there obediently, not daring to raise her head. The most basic quality of a secretary is to listen to what you should listen to and pretend not to hear what you shouldn't listen to. God knows what she heard. Could it be that President Su and this man both have children? It is hard to imagine that something would happen between Su Qingcheng, a woman who is perfect in every way, and the man in front of her. Su Qingcheng felt a rumbling sound in her mind, and she was completely stunned. From astonishment, to shock, to anger and shame. Su Qingcheng's fair face was flushed, and her whole body was shaking with anger from Yi Chen. At this moment, Su Qingcheng was like a volcano about to erupt, and Yi Chen was the fuse that ignited this volcano. Su Qingcheng was indeed in a dangerous period these days. If it weren't for Yi Chen, Su Qingcheng would not even have thought of this. After Yi Chen's reminder, Su Qingcheng felt like she was going crazy. Secretary Lin, why are you still standing there? Take me to the marketing department to report first. Seeing that the situation was not good, Chen had already slipped away to the door of the president's office. He waved at Lin Mingyu, who was still standing in the office, and then closed the office door directly. "Damn Chen, I'm going to fight you." As the office door closed, a roar of extreme anger came from the office. Even though the president's office had good sound insulation, Chen could still hear the sound of various documents falling to the ground. He could already imagine Su Qingcheng being extremely angry. Chen had no doubt that if he had left a second later, all these things would have been vented on him. "It was just a joke, but you got so angry. Aren't you afraid of affecting other employees' work?" Chen shook his head slightly and criticized Su Qingcheng harshly in his heart. Not long after, Lin Mingyu walked out of the office in fear. It was the first time she saw Su Qingcheng so angry. It even made Lin Mingyu feel that serving the king was like serving a tiger. "Secretary Lin, does your CEO Su usually have such a bad temper? I'm really worried about the employees of the Su Group." Chen sighed softly, a worried look on his face. Lin Mingyu looked at Chen with a strange look on her face. "Mr. Su is so angry because of you." Lin Mingyu couldn't help but mutter in her heart. "What is your relationship with President Su?" Lin Mingyu hesitated slightly and looked at Chen with curiosity. "Want to know?" Chen smiled. Lin Mingyu nodded subconsciously. "If you want to know, go ask Ms. Su. I signed an agreement with her to keep it confidential." Chen shrugged and said casually. Lin Mingyu couldn't help but rolled her eyes at Chen. "If I can ask Su Qingcheng, why would I ask you? The marketing department is on the 16th floor. I'll take you there to report." Lin Mingyu was too lazy to pay attention to Chen and walked towards the elevator in front. Chen followed Lin Mingyu into the elevator. "Secretary Lin, what exactly does the Su Group do?" Only then did Chen realize that he knew nothing about the Su Group, and didn't even know what it did. "You don't even know about the Su Group?" Lin Mingyu looked at Chen in astonishment, as if she was looking at an alien, and Chen couldn't help feeling a little uncomfortable. Chapter 5, The Marketing Department is full of beautiful women. Chen looked at Lin Mingyu's astonished eyes, and even felt as if he was a poor boy from the mountains. Chen returned to China in a hurry this time. He only knew Su Qingcheng's identity and had no idea about the Su Group. With Chen's identity, he came into contact with some of the top foreign conglomerates, and even some ancient European families that had been passed down for hundreds of years. It is difficult for Chen to get in touch with a company like Su Group, which is well known in the country. Working in Su Group was also Chen's casual idea. "I wonder if the Su Group is a serious problem." Chen smiled awkwardly. "I left Zhonghai for a while and just returned to China recently. I really don't know much about Zhonghai. The Su Group is one of the largest groups in Zhonghai. It mainly deals in women's clothing and various cosmetics. Every year, there are a lot of job seekers coming to the Su Group. Those who can be recruited by the Su Group are all elite talents, at least top students who graduated from 211 universities." Lin Mingyu raised her slender neck slightly, with a hint of pride on her face. It seems that Lin Mingyu is extremely proud to be able to work in Su Group. This sense of pride represents the extreme loyalty of Su Group's employees to the company. Only when everyone is united can we grow stronger. So the Su Group is so popular in Zhonghai. A look of surprise appeared on Chen's face. Of course. The employees of the Su Group have the highest salary among all the groups in Zhonghai. Even some of the top financial groups do not have as generous salary as our Su Group. Lin Mingyu chuckled and said, "This is also due to the wise leadership of President Su, who places great importance on talent. Since President Su took office as the president of the Su Group, the company's development has only gotten better and better." "Okay, President Su is not here, so she can't hear you flattering her." Chen joked. "Hee hee." Lin Mingyu's face froze, she snorted and rolled her eyes at Chen. At this time, the elevator stopped on the 16th floor. Lin Mingyu was the first to get out of the elevator and walked towards the marketing department with Chen. Along the way, there were beautiful women everywhere, and men were only a handful. "There are so many beautiful women here. It's not bad to be an assistant to the director of the marketing department." A faint smile appeared on Chen's face. "No wonder there are so many applicants for the Su Group. With so many beauties alone, wouldn't it be hard to get in?" Although Chen knew nothing about women's clothing and cosmetics, it did not stop him from watering the flowers and looking at beautiful women every day. This life was exactly as he had imagined. Wait for me here. I'll go in and hand over the formalities to Minister Chen. Arriving at the office area of the marketing department, Lin Mingyu left a word and walked straight in. Yi Chen glanced at the marketing department. There were quite a few employees, most of whom were women. Yi Chen even felt like he had entered a country of women. Just at this moment, a beautiful woman in black uniform walked out from the marketing department. She was about 27 or 28 years old, with a delicate face and a pair of almond-shaped eyes that revealed her charming temperament. Coupled with her plump figure and the black professional suit, her white-collar temperament is fully revealed. "Handsome boy, are you standing at the entrance of the marketing department looking for someone? If it's urgent, sister can help you." Lu Qian looked at Yi Chen, blinking her charming eyes and chuckled. "I'm not here to look for someone, I'm here to take up a job." Yi Chen coughed twice and chuckled. "Soon, we will be colleagues." "Job? You are past the age of recruitment now, and we have no shortage of employees in the marketing department. What position will you take?" A hint of doubt flashed across Lu Qian's eyes. "I'm Yi Chen, the new assistant to the director of the marketing department. Please give me your guidance, sister." A smile appeared on Yi Chen's face. "Assistant to the director of marketing." Lu Qian was stunned for a moment, then she covered her mouth and laughed. This time the reason is fresh, much more novel than the old ones in the past. "Tell me, which girl do you like? I'm in a good mood today, so I can help you make some connections." Lu Qian glanced at Yi Chen and said with a smile. "Pulling strings." Yi Chen raised a faint smile, leaned closer to Lu Qian, and chuckled. "I just like you, sister. I'm just chatting with my sister." Lu Qian rolled her eyes at Yi Chen. "I really didn't lie to you. I am the assistant director of the marketing department. President Su appointed me personally today. Director Chen will make the announcement in person later." Yi Chen chuckled and said casually. "Appointed by President Su himself." A look of surprise appeared on Lu Qian's face. The position of marketing assistant is generally decided by the marketing director himself. Mr. Su rarely interferes in appointments within the department. A marketing assistant was unexpectedly sent down this time. She knew that many people had been coveting this marketing assistant for a long time and wanted to take the next step, but she never expected that the boss would personally appoint her. "I'm afraid many people will be disappointed now." Just at this moment, Lin Mingyu walked out of the marketing department. "Secretary Lin." When Lu Qian saw Lin Mingyu, she hurriedly greeted her respectfully. Lin Mingyu nodded politely to Lu Qian. "Come with me." Lin Mingyu greeted Yi Chen, and then took Yi Chen into the marketing department. As soon as he entered the marketing department, Yi Chen smelled a peculiar fragrance. This is the smell of various perfumes mixed together. Lin Mingyu brought Yi Chen to the door of the marketing director's office. "I have already handed over the formalities to Minister Chen. You can go in and report to Minister Chen. You can start work today. You can follow Minister Shen's arrangements for anything." After Lin Mingyu finished her instructions, she turned around and left. She is indeed Su Qingqing's secretary. Her temper is exactly like Su Qingqing's. Yi Chen muttered a few words, then walked up and knocked on the door. "Enter." A cold voice came from inside the door. Yi Chen pushed open the door and saw a beautiful woman in black business attire sitting in the office. Yi Chen looked at Minister Shen, his eyes brightened slightly. Another beauty, and a top beauty who is not much inferior to Su Qingqing. A strand of jet black hair fell vertically on her shoulders like a waterfall, setting off her slender neck which was as white as jade. On her lightly made-up face, a pair of dark eyes were as bright as stars. The most important thing is that when Yi Chen looked at the beauty in front of him, he actually had an inexplicable sense of familiarity. "It's like I've seen it somewhere. The Su group is really full of beautiful women." Yi Chen sighed in his heart. "Are you the newly appointed marketing assistant by President Su?" Shen Qinghan looked at Yi Chen, a hint of hesitation flashing in his eyes. She inexplicably felt a sense of déjà vu from Yi Chen. Chapter 6. Do you think you can fire me? Although the man in front of her looked like they were meeting for the first time, Yi Chen's face gradually brought back the face that Shen Qinghan had buried in her memory. "Minister Shen, it's the first time we meet. I'm Yi Chen, the marketing assistant appointed by General Manager Su," Yi Chen said with a serious face. In front of a beautiful woman, especially her being his immediate superior, it is necessary to maintain due respect. "Your name is?" "Yi Chen." Shen Qinghan's beautiful eyes widened slightly, and her eyes were full of disbelief. Minister Shen knows me. Yi Chen looked at Shen Qinghan's surprised expression, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Although Yi Chen knew that he was handsome, he was not handsome enough for a beautiful woman to pretend to know him when they met for the first time. You are in high school in Zhonghai, right? Shen Qinghan suddenly spoke. Yes, I went to high school in Zhonghai. How did Minister Shen know about this? Yi Chen hesitated and said, could it be that Minister Shen also went to Zhonghai No. 1 high school? Although Yi Chen felt Shen Qinghan looked familiar, he racked his brains but couldn't figure out where he had seen this person before. If there really was such a beautiful girl in school, she would have become the school belle long ago. If Yi Chen had seen her, he would never forget her. I'm Shen Qinghan, who's sitting behind you. Shen Qinghan chuckled and said with a complicated expression, I haven't seen you for so many years. You seem like a completely different person. If I hadn't heard your name, I wouldn't have recognized you. Yi Chen in high school was much more flamboyant than Yi Chen is now, a typical problem teenager. It was common for him to form gangs and engage in brawls. He was definitely a prominent figure in the school and one of the most troublesome people for the teachers. But although Yi Chen plays a lot, his academic performance is among the best in the school. Because of this, the school turned a blind eye to Yi Chen. Girls in school basically had no resistance to boys like Yi Chen who were a bit ruffian but had good grades. Many girls have a strong admiration for Yi Chen. Shen Qinghan is naturally one of them. But at that time, she was just an ordinary girl, so she naturally didn't dare to confide her feelings to Yi Chen. This unexpected encounter made Shen Qinghan feel a little surprised and a little delighted. Shen Qinghan? Is she the shy girl with a ponytail sitting behind me? Yi Chen looked at Shen Qinghan with a strange expression, and said with emotion, they say that girls change a lot when they grow up. Now I have really opened my eyes. I didn't expect you to become so beautiful now. Why, wasn't I beautiful before? Shen Qinghan glanced at Yi Chen and said with a smile. She's beautiful. When Minister Shen was in school, she was one of the most beautiful girls in the class. Yi Chen coughed twice and a wry smile appeared on his face. Okay, stop being so glib. I don't know you yet. Shen Qinghan looked at Yi Chen with a puzzled look on his face and said, I heard that you joined the army back then. Your grades were so good back then, and you could choose any of the top universities in the country, but you actually joined the army. I heard that Director Yang was so angry that he couldn't eat for several days. When Yi Chen heard Shen Qinghan mention Director Yang, a look of reminiscence appeared on his face. Director Yang was the head teacher of their class back then and took good care of him. Otherwise, with all the trouble Yi Chen had caused, he would have been kicked out long ago. These are all personal choices. Now that I have been discharged from the army, I don't want to talk about the past. I just returned to China and haven't had time to visit Director Yang yet. Yi Chen looked at Shen Qinghan and chuckled, old classmate, I'm new here, and I hope you can take care of me. Why did you come to work at the Su Group, and as a marketing assistant? President Su has always been very strict about positions within the group. Shen Qinghan looked at Yi Chen, a hint of doubt in his eyes. Shen Qinghan knew Su Qingqing's character very well. Since she took office, personnel transfers within the company have been extremely strict. Based on what she knew about Yi Chen, it should be impossible for him to become a marketing assistant. You'll have to ask President Su about this. Yi Chen shrugged and said casually. Shen Qinghan frowned slightly and was about to speak when the office door suddenly opened and a man in a black suit walked in with a large bouquet of roses in his hand. Qinghan, I wonder if you are free tonight. The man showed an exaggerated smile on his face and looked at Shen Qinghan. Shen Qinghan frowned slightly, looking at the man who suddenly broke in, and a cold look suddenly appeared on her face. I say, do you have manners? Don't you even know to knock on the door before entering? Have you forgotten your basic professional ethics? Yi Chen glanced at the man who came in, and before Shen Qinghan could speak, he said with an unhappy look on his face. He was just planning to use the relationship with his old classmate to rely on the powerful Shen Qinghan. With the support of the director of marketing, wouldn't he, the marketing assistant, be able to do whatever he wants in the marketing department? He was just talking when this person just barged in. Didn't this ruin his plan? And looking at this young man, although he was dressed decently, his face revealed a sickly paleness. Based on Yi Chen's experience, he could tell at a glance that it was a sign of excessive indulgence. What kind of good person can this be? Who are you, kid? How dare you talk to me like that? Jiang Wenhao looked at Yi Chen and his expression suddenly turned gloomy. Since returning from abroad several months ago, Jiang Wenhao, with the help of his father, took up a synecdoche in the Su group. From the first time he met Shen Qinghan, Jiang Wenhao was attracted to her and began to pursue her madly. But how could a girl as gifted as Shen Qinghan be interested in a playboy like him? Naturally, she refused many times. But Jiang Wenhao didn't take it seriously and still shamelessly pursued Shen Qinghan. As the son of director Jiang of the Su group, Jiang Wenhao has the support of his father, the director, and no one has ever dared to speak to him like this. Especially in front of Shen Qinghan, whom he admired. If he doesn't get his revenge today, how can he continue to work in the Su group? Who do I care who you are? Didn't your parents teach you how to behave? If you don't know how, I don't mind teaching you on behalf of your dad. Yi Chen said indifferently. Jiang Wenhao was stunned for a moment, then suddenly sneered. You've got guts. This is the first time I've heard someone speak to me like this in the Su group. You dare to be so arrogant in front of me. Do you believe that I will make you pack up and leave this afternoon? Jiang Wenhao said with a gloomy face. You're the only one who can make me pack up and leave? Are you worthy enough? Yi Chen chuckled, a disdainful smile on his face. My wife is the president of Su Group, and you still want to fire me? How ridiculous. Having a CEO like this as your wife, you can do whatever you want. Chapter 7. Do you know who my wife is? Jiang Wenhao stared at Yi Chen, his eyes full of coldness. Since he joined the Su Group, no one has ever dared to speak to him like this. This is the first time I have been humiliated like this in the company. With his temper, there's no way he could just let it go like that. But in front of Shen Qinghan, Jiang Wenhao still maintained the qualities he had pretended for the past few months. Jiang Wenhao, it's office hours now. If you have nothing to do, please go out and don't disturb me at work. Shen Qinghan looked at the tense situation, frowned slightly, stood up and said to Jiang Wenhao. Did you hear that? Qinghan has spoken, why don't you leave quickly? Don't you feel like an eyesore standing here? Yi Chen glanced at Jiang Wenhao, waved his hand, and had a look of disgust on his face. Jiang Wenhao's inner anger suddenly surged up. Especially when he saw that Shen Qinghan and the young man in front of him seemed to have a very different relationship, Jiang Wenhao's eyes were filled with anger. From the first time they met, Jiang Wenhao was sure that Shen Qinghan was his woman. This pretty boy actually dares to catch the attention of my woman? And call her Qinghan so intimately. Boy, I'll give you one more chance to speak again. If I want you to get out of here, even Shen Qinghan can't help you. Get out of here while I still have some patience. Jiang Wenhao looked at Yi Chen and said viciously. Yi Chen frowned slightly, and a hint of indifference flashed in his eyes. You should be thankful that you are in the company. If you were in another place, you would die miserably. Yi Chen looked at Jiang Wenhao indifferently, the coldness in his eyes was as piercing as ice. Jiang Wenhao subconsciously glanced at Yi Chen's eyes, and actually felt a cold feeling rising in his heart. The aura that Yi Chen exuded at this moment actually made him feel a little fear. The fear that flashed through his heart made Jiang Wenhao feel extremely angry. Interesting, you dare to threaten me. Brat, believe it or not, I will crush you to death today. Jiang Wenhao had a gloomy face and didn't take Yi Chen's threats seriously at all. That's enough, Jiang Wenhao, if you don't leave, don't blame me for going to find President Su. Shen Qinghan frowned slightly and said with a cold face. For such a small matter, you actually went to find that woman Su Qingchen. It seems that you really have an affair with this pretty boy. No wonder you never agreed to my pursuit of you for so long. It turns out that you found such a pretty boy. Seeing that Shen Qinghan was still speaking for Yi Chen, Jiang Wenhao immediately took off his disguise, his face full of anger. Shut up. If you dare to talk nonsense again, don't blame me for being rude. When Shen Qinghan heard Jiang Wenhao's angry shout, an unnatural look suddenly appeared on his face. Jiang Wenhao looked at the expression on Shen Qinghan's face and became more certain of his inner thoughts. Qinghan, what else are you talking to this kind of loser? You can't be so polite to this kind of person. Yi Chen raised a faint smile and looked at Jiang Wenhao. Are you going to get out by yourself, or do you want me to send you out? If you let me send you out, I'm afraid the price will be very high. What? You still want to fight me? Dare you touch me? Jiang Wenhao looked at Yi Chen, a hint of provocation flashing in his eyes. Before he finished speaking, a loud slap was heard in the office. Jiang Wenhao staggered and was almost slapped away by Yi Chen. He covered his red face and looked at Yi Chen in disbelief. It seems that your father didn't teach you how to speak. I don't mind being your father and teaching you well. Yi Chen slowly withdrew his hand and said indifferently. You actually dared to hit me. You're looking for death. Jiang Wenhao was furious. He threw the rose in his hand away and punched Yi Chen. How could Jiang Wenhao, a rich second generation who was drained by alcohol and sex, be a match for Yi Chen? Just as Jiang Wenhao's fist was approaching Yi Chen suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed Jiang Wenhao's wrist directly. Jiang Wenhao felt as if his wrist was fixed by steel bars, and his face turned pale in pain. No matter how hard Jiang Wenhao tried, he couldn't break free from Yi Chen's restraints. Let me go, you bastard. Believe it or not, I'll find someone to kill you. Jiang Wenhao struggled hard and cursed at Yi Chen angrily with an annoyed look on his face. Court death. A fierce look flashed in Yi Chen's eyes. He suddenly exerted force with his right hand and tightly grasped Jiang Wenhao's wrist, as if he was going to break it directly. Jiang Wenhao suddenly screamed, his face turned pale with pain, and beads of sweat the size of beans appeared on his forehead. Yi Chen, don't be impulsive. This is in the company. If you hurt him, you will be in big trouble. Shen Qinghan saw that things were getting out of hand and hurried over to try to stop the fight. Jiang Wenhao's father is a director with considerable power in the company. If Yi Chen beats Jiang Wenhao on his first day at work, his father will definitely not let it go. Shen Qinghan didn't want Yi Chen to lose his job because of her. For Qinghan's sake, I'll spare you today. Get out of here. A cold look flashed across Yi Chen's eyes, and he immediately let go of his hand. Jiang Wenhao was in so much pain that he couldn't even stand steadily. His legs went weak and he fell to his knees in front of Yi Chen. Why, have you finally found your conscience, or are you ready to acknowledge me as your father? I don't want to have a son as useless as you, it's simply shameful. Yi Chen glanced at Jiang Wenhao and said casually. Upon hearing this, Shen Qinghan couldn't help but smile. Yi Chen's words are so infuriating that it can kill people. I'll remember you, little bastard. Jiang Wenhao gritted his teeth, his face full of ferociousness, crawled up from the ground, and left the office in a very embarrassed manner. Yi Chen, after all these years, your fighting temper hasn't changed at all. Jiang Wenhao is Director Jiang's son. If you beat him today, you'll be in big trouble. Shen Qinghan glared at Yi Chen, a look of worry flashing across her face. Qinghan, are you concerned about me? Yi Chen looked at Shen Qinghan with a half-smile on his face. Just be poor. A hint of shyness flashed across Shen Qinghan's face. She glared at Yi Chen unhappily and said, the main responsibility for today's incident still lies with Jiang Wenhao. I'll talk to President Su later. You shouldn't be in any trouble. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Yi Chen didn't take Jiang Wenhao's threats seriously at all. Do you know who my wife is? So what if it's Director Jiang? With Su Qingcheng around, this is no big deal. Shen Qinghan looked at Yi Chen with an indifferent expression, and a hint of helplessness flashed in his eyes. Qinghan, what do I do as a marketing assistant? After all, I am an assistant assigned by President Su personally. Doesn't my power need to be great? Not too much. Just assign a few dozen people to me to manage. I won't be able to manage more. Yi Chen looked at Shen Qinghan, coughed twice, and said seriously, you should also know that when I was in high school, I was also a class monitor. I was born with strong leadership skills and will never let you down. Shen Qinghan was stunned for a moment, with a look of being at a loss whether to laugh or cry on his face. Didn't President Su tell you what a marketing assistant does? Shen Qinghan looked at Yi Chen's righteous expression and a smile appeared inadvertently at the corner of her mouth. Yi Chen looked at the smirk on Shen Qinghan's face and suddenly had a bad feeling. Chapter 8. Is this the minister's assistant? She's basically a full-time nanny. Yi Chen didn't have any requirements for the position, so as for the assistant to the marketing director, Yi Chen really didn't ask Su Qingcheng what she did. But judging from the name, assistant minister is a small official at least. At the very least, he should be one level higher than ordinary employees. In such a large group, it is not an exaggeration to say that he is a middle-level leader. But looking at the smile on Shen Qinghan's face, Yi Chen felt that the situation was a little bad. Qinghan, isn't this assistant minister here to help you share some of the work? Yi Chen asked, frowning slightly. To be specific, it's not about sharing some work for me, it's about sharing work for the entire market. Shen Qinghan showed a strange smile on his face, turned around and took out a document from the folder on the desk. This is a detailed job description for the assistant minister. It is indeed as you said, it requires strong leadership skills to be competent. Shen Qinghan handed the document to Yi Chen, trying hard not to smile. Yi Chen took the document, flipped through it slightly, and his expression suddenly became a little ugly. The scope of work of this assistant minister was much larger than he had imagined. He records the attendance of all employees every month and is responsible for the daily logistics of the marketing department, such as the maintenance reporting of a series of public facilities such as printers, office computers, air conditioners, and even changing the water in the water dispenser is required by him. He is also responsible for the floor cleaning of the entire marketing department. For other cases, such as some employees having business difficulties, Yi Chen also needs to provide help. When there is work connection with other departments, he needs to report it first. The minister is out discussing a contract, and Yi Chen needs to accompany him. Yi Chen flipped through the entire document, his expression becoming extremely ugly. This is not an assistant, this is a nanny. And she's a full-time nanny. Get the lowest salary and do the most tiring work. Is this a job for humans? I might as well be a security guard at the gate and have an easier time. Su Qingcheng, this is really going too far. Yi Chen took a deep breath and said through gritted teeth. How could Su Qingcheng not know what this assistant minister does? There is no doubt that he was fooled by this woman Su Qingcheng. It turns out that the more beautiful a woman is, the more ruthless she is. The ancients never deceived me. I don't know why President Su asked you to be the assistant to the director, but this position also has its advantages. After serving for a certain period of time, you will have the opportunity to be promoted before other employees. This should be the best springboard for promotion to the middle level of the marketing department. Shen Qinghan looked at Yi Chen's ugly expression and comforted him with a smile. A springboard for promotion. A sneer appeared on Yi Chen's face. Others may not know Su Qingcheng's thoughts, but how could he not know? This is clearly retaliation. Even if he worked until his death, Su Qingcheng probably wouldn't give him a promotion. Yi Chen, if you are not satisfied with this position, I will find a way to talk to President Su and help you transfer to another position. Shen Qinghan hesitated for a moment and said softly. Forget it, I'll just be an assistant. Yi Chen took a deep breath. It was obvious that this woman, Su Qingcheng, was plotting against him. Even if Shen Qinghan went to plead for her, it would probably be of no use. Maybe Su Qingcheng is waiting for him to give in now. For a man of your stature, this little difficulty is nothing. Okay, then I'll take you to the marketing department to familiarize yourself with the environment and let everyone get to know you. Shen Qinghan smiled and took Yi Chen out of the office and came to the office area of the marketing department. Everyone, put aside your work for now. Let me introduce you. This is Yi Chen, the new assistant to the minister. We will be colleagues from now on. Please welcome him. Shen Qinghan clapped his hands and introduced Yi Chen with a serious face. The new assistant minister. An assistant minister actually parachuted down from above. Everyone was stunned for a moment, then applauded to welcome Yi Chen. Hello, ladies. This is my first time serving as a minister's assistant. Please take good care of me. Yi Chen glanced at the entire marketing department and a warm smile appeared on his face. The entire marketing department is comparable to a girls' school. Except for a few men here and there, most of the others are women. There are also many beautiful women with good looks. Working in this environment, Yi Chen felt a sense of pleasure. Just be a nanny. Being a nanny to so many beauties, she can be considered an ace nanny among nannies. This wave is not a loss. Yi Chen, that's your desk, get familiar with the working environment first. Shen Qinghan said a few words and then left. After Shen Qinghan left, many beautiful colleagues around greeted Yi Chen one after another, and the entire marketing department suddenly became lively. The marketing department is now extremely dominated by women and less men. The few men there are all ugly. How could they be interested in these beauties? Now suddenly there comes Yi Chen, a handsome-looking boy who is also the assistant to the minister. It is like a Tang monk coming to the kingdom of women. Naturally, it was welcomed by many beauties. Yi Chen greeted him as he came to his desk. Apart from a well-configured computer, there was nothing else on the desk. I didn't expect that you are actually the assistant minister appointed by President Su himself. At this time, Lu Qian walked over with her slender waist twisted, and looked at Yi Chen with curiosity. I never lie to anyone, especially a beauty like you. Yi Chen looked at Lu Qian and said with a smile. Little brother, your mouth is really greased. You speak so sweetly. It seems that you have been flirting with many girls. Lu Qian glanced at Yi Chen and smiled sweetly. Having said that, the smile that inadvertently appeared on Lu Qian's face showed that she was very happy with Yi Chen's words. I am a pure and innocent boy, please don't wrongly accuse me, sister. Yi Chen showed a smile on his face. Cut. Lu Qian rolled her eyes at Yi Chen. Innocent boy? She had never seen a pure-hearted boy like Yi Chen. I have just taken up the position of assistant minister. There are still many things I don't understand, and I need your help, sister. Yi Chen looked at Lu Qian and chuckled. You want my help? But I need to pay you for asking a beautiful lady for help. Lu Qian said with a sweet smile. Remuneration? Sister, this is wrong. I am the assistant to the minister after all, and I am half your superior. I haven't asked you for a gift yet, but you are asking me for compensation. You are making me, the assistant to the minister, lose face. Yi Chen leaned close to Lu Qian's ear and chuckled. The boss is very angry, that's a very serious matter. Do you understand the unspoken rules of the workplace? Unspoken rules in the workplace. Lu Qian was stunned for a moment, and it was obvious that she understood what Yi Chen meant by the unspoken rules. You want to take advantage of me? Lu Qian looked at Yi Chen with a smile. Chapter 9 Unrestrained Lu Qian. Lu Qian looked at Yi Chen, who was so close to her. Although she pretended to be generous, a trace of panic flashed in her eyes. Unwritten rules in the workplace. This was definitely the first time Lu Qian had heard this term at the Su Group. Generally speaking, there are indeed unspoken rules in the workplace in some large companies, but they are all carried out in private. But in a place like the Su Group where women are more powerful than men, Lu Qian had never heard of such a thing as unspoken rules in the workplace. After all, the leaders of the marketing department have always been women. How can women carry out what Yi Chen calls the unspoken rules of the workplace? Now that Yi Chen, the assistant minister, has been parachuted into the marketing department, he can be considered the nominal leader. Lu Qian didn't know much about the newly appointed assistant minister. But do you want to take advantage of me? No way. Yi Chen looked at Lu Qian and saw a hint of panic in her eyes, and a faint smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. As I got close to Lu Qian, the faint fragrance from her body involuntarily came to my nose. It has to be said that Lu Qian is one of the most beautiful girls in the entire marketing department. Especially when she wears this OL uniform and has a charming look in her eyes, she is extremely lethal to adult men. Faced with a beauty like Sister Lu, I think any normal man would never refuse her. What do you think? Yi Chen stared into Lu Qian's eyes, with a wicked smile on his face. You little brat, you still want to tease your sister? You are so brave. Lu Qian's red lips slightly raised into a smile, and she glanced at Yi Chen charmingly, but you are not qualified to be the assistant to the minister. Only when you become the minister will you have the opportunity to take advantage of me. Yi Chen couldn't help but take a breath when he heard Lu Qian's slightly teasing voice. Fairy. Definitely a goblin. This wave of teasing is absolutely intolerable. For my sister, I will definitely be the director of the marketing department. Yi Chen chuckled. Okay, stop talking nonsense. If there is anything you don't understand, you can ask me. Lu Qian covered her mouth and smiled sweetly. Sister has to go back to work first. As soon as she finished speaking, Lu Qian turned around and left, twisting her slender waist. Yi Chen looked at Lu Qian's charming figure, a smile appeared on his face, and he turned around and sat on the chair. Yi Chen is now quite satisfied with the position of assistant minister. This is the working environment he imagined. Although the salary and benefits at Su Group are generous, the work pressure is also not small. In particular, every employee has performance requirements. Once their performance ranks last in the department for many times, they may even be at risk of being fired. Therefore, the entire marketing department seems extremely busy during working hours. Yi Chen had just taken up the position of assistant minister and was still confused about work matters and had no idea where to start. Besides, Yi Chen came to work at the Su Group just to join in the fun. Could it be that he was really working hard to make money for Su Qingcheng? With this mentality, Yi Chen turned on the computer, fiddled with it for a few times, and directly opened the game, pretending to be working hard. Before I knew it, the morning had passed and soon it was time for lunch. Beauty, are all the employees of Su Group eating in the cafeteria? Chen knocked on the desk not far from him and asked casually. A beautiful woman with shoulder-length hair raised her head and looked at Chen. When Chen saw the other person's appearance, he raised his eyebrows slightly. She turned out to be a very pure-looking beauty, and she was the kind of beauty who had just graduated from college. She was brimming with youthfulness. Yes, we all eat in the company cafeteria. The beauty nodded subconsciously and responded to Chen a little shyly. Which floor is the cafeteria on? This is my first time here and I don't know where the cafeteria is. Chen asked casually. The cafeteria is on the 6th floor. Thank you. We are colleagues from now on. You should already know my name. I wonder what your name is, beautiful lady. Chen placed his hands on the desk and looked at the beautiful woman. My name is Chiu Yuqing. The beautiful woman whispered in a low voice. Her voice was very soft and sounded soft. She looked like a good girl. Chiu Yuqing? It sounds like the name of a beautiful lady, and it suits your temperament very well. Chen said with admiration. Hearing Chen's praise, Chiu Yuqing couldn't help but blush on her face. Blushing? So shy? Chen looked at the beautiful woman whose face was slightly flushed, and a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. This is the marketing department, and the employees in the marketing department are all responsible for sales. Regardless of their business abilities, they are definitely very extroverted girls who are good at speaking. She blushed after Chen gave her a little compliment. How can such a shy girl appear in the marketing department? Chen thought that the marketing department was full of bold and unrestrained professional beauties like Lucian, but he didn't expect that there was such a pure student girl. Chen, Yuqing has just come for internship and is still a prospective graduate. Stop teasing our Yuqing. Just at this moment, Lucian walked over and glared at Chen. Sister Lu, you are wrongly accusing me. I am just trying to improve the relationship between my colleagues. This will also help me to carry out my work. Chen said with a serious face. TSK. Lucian rolled her eyes at Chen. Yuqing, come on, let's go to the cafeteria to eat together. Lucian took Chiu Yuqing's hand and chuckled. Chiu Yuqing was obviously not good at refusing, so she was dragged by Lucian and went to the cafeteria on the 6th floor with Chen. As a well-known large group in China overseas, the restaurants of Su Group are quite distinctive. Not only are the food varieties very rich, but the quality of the dishes is also no less than that of star-rated hotels outside. Most importantly, the cafeteria is open to all employees free of charge. It is for this reason that most of the employees of Su Group choose to eat in the canteen of Su Group. Even for dinner, many single employees choose to eat in the cafeteria before going home. When Chen, Lucian and others arrived at the restaurant, there were already quite a few people sitting inside. The gender ratio in the entire Su Group is seriously unbalanced. When Chen looked around, most of the people in the cafeteria were girls. Chen, Lucian and the other two selected their food and sat casually on an empty seat not far away. The food in this cafeteria is really good and tastes great. Chen took a few bites and said with admiration. Of course. The cafeteria of the Su Group is well known throughout Zhonghai. I heard that the chefs in the cafeteria were specially hired by President Su from 5-star hotels. Lucian said with a proud look on her face. No wonder there are so many people eating in this cafeteria. The chef of a 5-star hotel is here to eat for free. Only a fool would not come to eat here. At this moment, the entire cafeteria suddenly became quiet. The crisp sound of high heels was heard. Chen subconsciously turned his head and saw Su Qingchang and a group of leaders who looked like senior executives of the company walking in. The person walking beside Su Qingchang was his immediate superior, Shen Qinghan. The two beauties walked in, one on the left and one on the right, their beautiful faces full of coldness. It seemed as if a cold breath permeated the entire cafeteria. Even though they were far away, Chen could feel the cold temperament emanating from them, which was unique to white-collar women. Chapter 10 Women's Curiosity. As Su Qingchang, Shen Qinghan and others walked into the cafeteria, the entire cafeteria suddenly became quiet. As the president of Su Group, Su Qingchang has a strong authority within the Su Group. It's not just because Su Qingchang has the title of the most beautiful woman in Zhonghai, but also because she has a cold temperament, sharp means, and is extremely decisive in doing things in the Su Group, leading the Su Group to become stronger rapidly. The employees of Su Group are full of admiration for this icy president. Seeing Su Qingcheng walk in, many people secretly glanced at Su Qingcheng, and the atmosphere in the entire cafeteria fell into a weird state. I think these employees seem to be very afraid of Su Qingcheng. Yi Chen glanced at Su Qingcheng and said casually to Lu Qian, "What do you mean by fear? This is respect. Show some respect to President Su." Lu Qian lowered her voice and said unhappily, "That's right, President Su is my idol, and I also want to be a workplace elite like President Su." Chiu Yuqing looked at Su Qingcheng in the distance, her beautiful eyes almost twinkling with stars, and she looked like an avid star chaser. "I think you are all going to be brainwashed by Su Qingcheng." Yi Chen shook his head and sighed slightly. He didn't expect Su Qingcheng to be so famous in the Su Group. At this moment, Su Qingcheng glanced at the crowd and immediately saw Yi Chen not far away, her expression slightly condensed. "I hooked up with 2 beautiful girls right after I got to work." Su Qingcheng glanced at Yi Chen not far away with an unfriendly look, a cold look flashed in her eyes, and then she quickly left. At this time, Lu Qian noticed the look in Su Qingcheng's eyes and was slightly stunned. "Mr. Su seemed to have glanced over here just now," Lu Qian said hesitantly. "Really? Why didn't I see it?" Yi Chen pretended not to know. "I guess Su Qingcheng saw him just now, so she looked over here." However, there was no need for Yi Chen to tell Lu Qian and the others about this matter, as he had signed a confidentiality agreement. Besides, even if I told them, Lu Qian and the others probably wouldn't believe it. He must have looked this way. Lu Qian looked at Yi Chen suspiciously. "I remember you said that you were assigned to the marketing department by President Su himself. You don't know President Su, do you?" "Guess," Yi Chen said mysteriously. "I guess you must be related to CEO Su, otherwise how could you get a job in the marketing department when the company's recruitment period has passed?" Lu Qian rolled her eyes at Yi Chen. "You don't know Su Qingcheng's character yet. Is she the kind of person who favors people based on personal connections?" Yi Chen shook his head and chuckled. "That's true. Since President Su took office, she hates it most when senior leaders place their relatives in the company at will. Given her personality, I'm afraid she wouldn't place her relatives in the company at will. Recently, those senior directors have been somewhat opposed to President Su, so I won't give them a chance to get hold of her at this time." Lu Qian frowned slightly and looked at Yi Chen with burning eyes. Lu Qian had some understanding of the situation within the company, but she still had no idea why Yi Chen was suddenly parachuted into the marketing department. This completely aroused Lu Qian's inner curiosity. The more they can't get it, the more they want it. This is women's curiosity. "It seems that your CEO Su is not a man of his word in the company." Yi Chen raised his eyebrows. Didn't he expect that such a strong woman like Su Qingcheng would be restricted by some senior directors? "Don't change the subject. What is your relationship with Mr. Su?" Lu Qian stared at Yi Chen closely, as if she had the urge to get to the bottom of the matter. "Want to know?" Yi Chen showed a sly smile on his face. Lu Qian nodded subconsciously, and even Chiu Yuqing, who was eating silently beside her, couldn't help but prick up her ears. "Come closer, I tell you, this is a private secret and cannot be told to others. Otherwise, if your President Su finds out, I'm afraid he will find fault with me." Yi Chen coughed twice and chuckled. Lu Qian's eyes were full of curiosity, and she subconsciously moved closer to Yi Chen. "Su Qingcheng is actually my wife," Yi Chen said in a low voice. Puff. Upon hearing this, Lu Qian couldn't help but burst out laughing. "Why, you don't believe it?" Yi Chen looked at Lu Qian's extremely exaggerated smile and knew that Lu Qian did not believe what he said at all. "Are you President Su's husband?" "I'm President Su's best friend, and you can't even make it sound convincing when you're bragging," Lu Qian said unhappily. "These days, no one believes the truth. People's hearts are no longer the same as they used to be." Yi Chen shook his head and said with emotion, "Forget it. No one wants to know yet." Lu Qian rolled her eyes at Yi Chen, then lowered her head and ate her meal in peace. Yi Chen is a smooth-talking person who never speaks the truth. It would be foolish of you to trust him. At the same time, Su Qingcheng and Shen Qinghan also sat in the cafeteria's private room to eat. "Boss Su, is that Yi Chen related to you in any way?" Shen Qinghan hesitated for a moment and asked Su Qingcheng. What's the matter? Has he caused you trouble in the marketing department again? Su Qingcheng frowned slightly. Not really, I'm just a little curious as to why President Su suddenly assigned an assistant here. Shen Qinghan shook his head, his eyes full of doubt. He's a very annoying guy. As long as he doesn't do anything out of line, just ignore him. When Su Qingcheng mentioned Yi Chen's name, she felt angry. This bastard actually dared to tease her like this. If I find the chance, I will teach this bastard a lesson. Shen Qinghan looked at the angry look on Su Qingcheng's face and knew that there must be some hidden story. But since Su Qingcheng was unwilling to say, Shen Qinghan didn't want to ask too much. How is the cooperation with Qingyuan Group going? Su Qingcheng looked at Shen Qinghan at this time. We have almost finished the discussion. They said they would consider it for a few days and then sign the contract with us. Shen Qinghan said with a serious face. Qingyuan Group plays a very important role in the expansion of our company's products. We must win this cooperation. Su Qingcheng said softly. Don't worry, President Su, I will follow up on this matter personally and I will definitely not let you down. Shen Qinghan nodded and said in a deep voice. In this Su group, you are the only one who can make me feel most at ease. A smile appeared on Su Qingcheng's beautiful face. This is all thanks to the contribution of General Manager Su. Shen Qinghan chuckled. You are kidding me, man. Su Qingcheng reached out and touched Shen Qinghan's forehead, and her action seemed extremely intimate. If the employees outside saw Su Qingcheng's playful side, their eyes would probably fall out. Chapter 11 Jiang Wenhao's Revenge. After Yi Chen, Lu Qiyun and Qiu Yuqing had lunch together, they walked leisurely towards the marketing department. From Lu Qiyun, Yi Chen gained some understanding of the Su Group. Although his cheap father-in-law is the chairman of the Su Group, there are other old men who fought with him to conquer the world as directors. Although Su Qingcheng has inherited the family business and served as the executive president of Su Group, these directors are still not very convinced of Su Qingcheng. Therefore, the internal situation of the Su Group was much more complicated than he had imagined. However, Yi Chen didn't want to pay much attention to these things. This time when he returned to China, in addition to dealing with some things, he also wanted to live a peaceful life. Yi Chen, Lu Qiyun and the other two staggered towards the marketing department. As soon as they reached the door, several security guards guarding the entrance of the marketing department walked over quickly. Yi Chen looked up and saw that the leader was Jiang Wenhao, who had been taught a lesson by Yi Chen. Although Jiang Wenhao had applied some medicine on his face, it was still obvious that there was a large swelling. From a distance, Jiang Wenhao's right face was obviously swollen like a pig's head. You little bastard, I finally caught you. Jiang Wenhao looked at Yi Chen, a cold look flashed in his eyes. It seems that the lesson I taught you this morning was not enough and has not yet made you fully aware of the situation. Yi Chen glanced at Jiang Wenhao, his eyes full of indifference. You little brat, why don't you go find out who has the final say in this Su group? You've offended me. Even if you kneel down and beg me today, it won't let you off the hook today. Jiang Wenhao snorted coldly, his eyes full of ferocity. Jiang Wenhao, this is the marketing department. What do you want to do? If you mess around, aren't you afraid that President Su will blame you? Lu Qiyun also recognized Jiang Wenhao at this time and said seriously. Jiang Wenhao's notoriety is well known in the Su group. Relying on his father who is a director, Jiang Wenhao is domineering within the group and no one can control him. In addition, although Jiang Wenhao acted in a domineering manner, he still had some sense of propriety and no one could find fault with him. Even though Su Qingcheng knew that Jiang Wenhao had a long history of bad deeds, she had no reason to take action. Lu Qiyun didn't expect that Yi Chen would provoke this devil on his first day at work. Get out of the way. You have no right to speak here. Even if Shen Qinghan came today, she couldn't save him. Jiang Wenhao showed a stern look on his face. Do it now, today I will let him know who has the final say here. The security guards behind Jiang Wenhao sneered and walked out from behind Jiang Wenhao. These security guards are all strong and sturdy, and they don't look like ordinary security guards. You are the security guards of the Su group. How dare you attack the employees of the group here? Yi Chen looked at the security guards and said indifferently. It's your fault that you offended someone you shouldn't have offended. Do you think you can beat young Master Jiang? Our duty is to protect young Master Jiang. A security guard with a crew cut sneered, "Boy, if you kneel down and apologize to young Master Jiang, you can suffer less today." "What if I choose not to?" Yi Chen said casually. "Then don't blame us for not keeping you." Several security guards were rubbing their hands together, with sneers on their faces. "Yi Chen, hurry up and leave. Jiang Wenhao might really want to attack you. I'll go find Minister Shen. As long as Minister Shen comes, I don't think they will dare to attack you." Lu Qian lowered her head at this time and whispered to Yi Chen. "Sister Lu, don't worry about this. I can handle it myself. You and Sister Yuqing go back first." Yi Chen showed a faint smile on his face and motioned Lu Qian and Qiu Yuqing to go back first. "Be careful, I'll be there soon." Lu Qian also knew that there was no point in staying here, so she hurriedly pulled the somewhat panicked Qiu Yuqing towards the marketing department. Now the only way to save Yi Chen is to invite Shen Qinghan over. Jiang Wenhao and several security guards nearby ignored Lu Qian and Qiu Yuqing. It would be fine if they attacked Yi Chen, but if they attacked a female employee, the impact would be too great. Even with the support of Jiang Wenhao, they did not dare to be so presumptuous. As the security guards of the Su group, you don't protect the employees of the group, but even follow outsiders to bully your own people. It seems that I have to clean up the mess on behalf of President Su today. Yi Chen looked at the security guards, a fierce look flashing in his eyes. Compared to Jiang Wenhao, Yi Chen is even more disgusted with these security guards. These security guards of the Su group are supposed to protect the safety of the group's employees, but now they are engaging in infighting. Yi Chen will not show any mercy to such a traitorous existence. "Oh, you are so arrogant. With your small body, let's see how you can clean up the mess. Brothers, go ahead and beat him up." One of the security guards showed an angry look on his face and reached out to grab Yi Chen. "Don't want this hand anymore." A cold look flashed in Yi Chen's eyes. He moved and suddenly stepped forward. He stretched out his hand and grabbed his wrist. He applied a little force and there was a cracking sound. His bones were crushed by Yi Chen. "Arr!" With a scream, the security guard fell to his knees in pain. "Did you meet a tough guy?" The security guard behind him suddenly changed his expression. Yi Chen acted extremely quickly and ruthlessly. He was definitely not an ordinary employee. It's possible that they hit the steel plate this time. "If you don't take action, I will." Yi Chen said calmly, suddenly stepped forward, appeared in front of the security guards, and slapped them. With a slap, a security guard in front of Yi Chen was slapped away by Yi Chen. The person was still in the air, and several broken teeth spewed out of his mouth. The other two security guards turned pale and stood still, their legs trembling. The look in their eyes when they looked at Yi Chen was full of fear. What kind of monster is this? A slap in the face actually sent a person flying? This was a scene that could only be seen on TV, and they never expected it to happen right before their eyes. Your brothers have all fallen, and you two are still standing here. This is a little inappropriate. Brothers should share the good and the bad. Yi Chen looked at the remaining two security guards, sneered, and suddenly kicked them twice. The two security guards didn't even put up a single resistance and were kicked flying by Yi Chen, crashing into the opposite wall. The huge impact force even made them feel like their ribs were about to be broken. "It's your turn next. How would you like to die? I can satisfy you." Yi Chen looked at Jiang Wenhao with a smile on his face. Jiang Wenhao looked at the devilish smile on Yi Chen's face and his face suddenly turned pale. Chapter 12. Now it's symmetrical. These security guards are the elite members of the Su Group S security department, and all of them are retired military personnel. Any one of them can deal with 3 or 5 ordinary people. But in front of Yi Chen, they were as fragile as little lambs. This was a little hard for Jiang Wenhao to accept. Trash, all trash. Jiang Wenhao couldn't help but curse in his heart. I originally wanted to teach Yi Chen a lesson, but now I am really embarrassed. My dad is a director of the company. If you dare to touch me, my dad will not let you go. Jiang Wenhao gritted his teeth, looking fierce on the outside but weak on the inside. Even if the King of Heaven came, he couldn't save you today. A hint of indifference flashed across Yi Chen's eyes. "Brother, is there any misunderstanding between us? If you let me go today, I will never bother Shen Qinghan again. I will give her to you. How about that?" Jiang Wenhao swallowed and put on a flattering smile. "How dare you set your sights on Qinghan? I'm not an unreasonable person. I slapped your right cheek this morning, and your left cheek looks a little out of place. I'll help you with your facelift today. A cold look flashed across Chen's eyes, and he suddenly stretched out his hand and slapped Jiang Wenhao on the left cheek. With a slap, Jiang Wenhao screamed and was slapped away by Chen. A mouthful of scarlet blood mixed with a few teeth spurted out of Jiang Wenhao's mouth. Now it's finally symmetrical. Chen looked at Jiang Wenhao's face, which was so swollen that even his mother probably couldn't recognize it, and nodded with satisfaction. At this moment, the sound of hurried high heels came from the direction of the marketing department. Shen Qinghan, Lu Qiyun and others walked over quickly, and were stunned when they saw the scene. Chen, are you okay? Lu Qiyun asked subconsciously. I'm fine, but the same may not be true for them. Chen shrugged and looked at Shen Qinghan. Minister Shen, I am passively fighting back, you have to make the decision for me. Lu Qiyun has already told me everything. I will report this matter to President Su personally. Shen Qinghan looked at Jiang Wenhao, who was lying on the ground with a cold face. Jiang Wenhao, you are so brave that you dare to bring people from the security department to beat up employees from the marketing department. Even if Director Jiang came forward today, he couldn't save you. Qinghan, save me, I don't want to die. Jiang Wenhao's face was swollen like a pig's head at this time, and his front teeth were knocked out by Chen. He stuttered when he spoke, and looked miserable. Shen Qinghan frowned slightly, with a look of being at a loss whether to laugh or cry on her face. Chen is still the same as he was in school. He never loses in a fight. Jiang Wenhao is really asking for trouble by offending Chen. Chen, let's forget about this matter. If the fight continues, someone might die. Shen Qinghan looked at Chen and said softly. Then I'll leave this matter to you, Qinghan. Chen shrugged and said casually. In front of so many people, Chen couldn't kill Jiang Wenhao. Besides, Chen felt that teaching such a person a lesson was a bit dirty. Ask the security department to take these security guards to get treated. The company will cover the medical expenses. After they are cured, the company will handle the dismissal procedures for you. Shen Qinghan looked at the security guards and a hint of disgust flashed in his eyes. Minister Shen, Jiang Wenhao asked me to do this. Please forgive us. One of the security guards who was still conscious begged for mercy from Shen Qinghan with a sad face. The company has its own rules and regulations. You guys should take care of yourselves. Shen Qinghan snorted coldly and ignored these people's pleas for mercy. At this time, Chen, Lu Qiyun and Qiu Yuqing returned to the marketing department. Chen, I didn't realize that you, with your small body, can fight so well. All these security guards in the company are retired from the army, and you actually managed to take care of them all. Lu Qiyun glanced at Chen, a hint of surprise flashing in her eyes. These people don't deserve to be called soldiers. They are just a bunch of trash. It's not a big deal to deal with them. Chen raised a faint smile, but I'm not only good at fighting, but also better in bed. Do you want to try it? Bar, you can't spit out ivory from a dog's mouth. Lu Qiyun's face turned slightly red, she spat at Chen in annoyance, then left with her slender waist twisted. Chen looked at Lu Qiyun's back with a smile on his face. Although I am disgusted by these security guards, I still have these lovely colleagues in the marketing department. At least Lu Qiyun and Qiu Yuqing are very friendly colleagues. Most people wouldn't dare to confront a rich second generation like Jiang Wenhao. Jiang Wenhao's side was handled by Shen Qinghan, so Chen didn't care too much about it. If the sky falls, there are tall people to hold it up. If there is any problem, let Su Qingcheng deal with it. In the president's office. Su Qingcheng listened to Shen Qinghan's report on the phone, took a deep breath, and suddenly felt a headache. This guy Chen beat up Director Jiang's son on his first day at work. This made Su Qingcheng doubt whether her decision to let Chen serve as assistant to the director of the marketing department was a mistake. Director Jiang, President Su is working in the office. Please wait here for a moment. I will go in and report. Lin Mingyue's urgent voice came from outside the office. Director Jiang, I haven't informed you yet, you can't force your way in. As soon as he finished speaking, the door of the office suddenly opened. Su Qingcheng looked up and saw a middle-aged man walking in quickly. Boss Su, you need to give me an explanation. Jiang Zijin looked at Su Qingcheng with a gloomy face. Director Jiang, the company has its own rules. You broke into the president's office without permission. Do you have any rules in your eyes? Su Qingcheng looked at Jiang Zijin and said in a cold voice, "Do you think this office is your home? You can enter whenever you want." Jiang Zijin was speechless for a moment after being confronted by Su Qingcheng, and his eyes were full of ugliness. "Mr. Su, I was a little rash. Something happened to my son suddenly. As a father, I was a little impatient. I hope you can forgive me." Jiang Zijin took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "I have worked hard in the Su group for decades. I have made great contributions. My son was beaten and hospitalized in the Su group. I must give an explanation for this matter. I must bring the murderer to justice. Director Shen Qinghan has already reported this to me." Jiang Wenhao took the security guards from the security department to the marketing department and beat up an employee. The other party was just passively defending. Many employees in the marketing department can testify, including Director Shen Qinghan. The main responsibility lies with Jiang Wenhao. If the matter is made a big deal, it will not be good for anyone. Su Qingcheng said calmly, "Even if Jiang Wenhao suffered a work-related injury, the company will pay for the medical expenses, and this matter ends here." "That's it." Jiang Zijin laughed in anger. "My son was beaten into the hospital, and you told me that this matter is over. Su Qingcheng, don't go too far." Chapter 13 Su Qingcheng's Troubles. Jiang Zijin was extremely angry at this time. He can be considered an old member of the Su group. The current size of the Su group is inseparable from the efforts of the old directors. Although the Su group is named Su, it does not mean that they have no contributions. Now that Su Qingcheng has just taken office, she has begun to weaken their power. Now he is even trying to protect the murderer who beat his son. How could Jiang Zijin not be angry at such behavior? This is not just killing the donkey after it has served its purpose, it is definitely a declaration of war against these former directors. If his son was beaten today, it could be him tomorrow. Jiang Zijin couldn't swallow this humiliation no matter what. "Director Jiang, what do you want me to do?" Su Qingcheng looked at Jiang Zijin indifferently. "The murderer who beat my son must be removed from the company. How can I let it go after beating my son?" Jiang Zijin said angrily. "I can't do this. As employees of my Su group, I should treat everyone equally. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Now, if I can dismiss employees of the Su group at will just because Jiang Wenhao is your son, Director Jiang, what kind of thing is this? If this gets out, how can my Su group still gain a foothold in Zhonghai?" Su Qingcheng said seriously, "Today's fight was entirely Jiang Wenhao's fault. If Director Jiang continues to pester me, we can only go through other procedures. Director Jiang can call the police at will, and I will let the company's lawyer handle the matter." When Jiang Zijin heard this, the anger in his heart suddenly exploded. Su Qingcheng's words clearly showed that she wanted to protect Chen. Maybe what happened today was a trap set by Su Qingcheng. What is happening now is indeed extremely unfavorable to Jiang Zijin, and it is basically his son's fault. If we really call the police, I'm afraid it will be of no use. And it will make other people laugh at you. He has definitely suffered a loss today. "Okay, Su Qingcheng, this matter is not over yet, let's wait and see." Jiang Zijin said this, turned around and left the office. "Boss Su." After Jiang Zijin left, Lin Mingyu walked into the office and looked at Su Qingcheng with a worried look. "It's okay. Keep an eye on Jiang Zijin. If he does anything extreme, notify me immediately." Su Qingcheng sat in the office chair with a cold expression. "Yes, Mr. Su." Lin Mingyu nodded and quickly left the office. "Damn Chen, he caused me so much trouble on my first day here." Su Qingcheng let out a light breath, a thoughtful look flashing in her eyes. Given Jiang Zijin's temper, he would definitely not let it go even if his son was severely injured. Su Qingcheng originally wanted to take action against these old directors and weaken their power. Now, taking advantage of this opportunity, we can take further action. Chen was sitting at his desk at this time, spending an extremely leisurely afternoon. No one came to disturb Chen, not even Jiang Wenhao's father, the legendary director Jiang, came to trouble him. It's like nothing ever happened. This made Chen a little confused. Chen was very clear about the force used in the attack just now. Jiang Wenhao can't see anyone within a month. Even though his son was beaten like this, Director Jiang didn't even show up. Could it be that Jiang Wenhao is not the other party's biological son? But since the other party didn't cause him any trouble, Yi Chen didn't care too much. His son behaves like this, so Mr. Jiang is probably not a good person. He was lucky that he didn't come. If anyone really dared to cause trouble for him, Yi Chen wouldn't mind sending him to accompany Jiang Wenhao. Wait for me in the parking lot. Just when he was about to get off work, a text message appeared on Yi Chen's phone. It was actually sent by Su Qingcheng. Let me wait for her in the parking lot. Yi Chen frowned, not understanding what Su Qingcheng meant. Yi Chen, it's time to get off work. There's a small party tonight. Do you want to go with us? Lu Qian came over at this time and said with a smile. Forget it, I have something else to do tonight, and my wife asked me to wait for her. Yi Chen waved his hand, declined Lu Qian's invitation, slipped out of the marketing department, and took the elevator to the parking lot. The Su Group's parking lot is very large, but Su Qingcheng's parking space is easy to find. As the president of the Su Group, he has his own exclusive parking space. There is a dedicated elevator from the president's office that takes you directly to the parking space. Yi Chen came to Su Qingcheng's red BMW, waiting for Su Qingcheng to get off work. Not long after, Su Qingcheng, dressed in a black business suit and high heels, walked out of the president's special elevator. Wife, you are 10 minutes late for get off work. Yi Chen looked at the time and said with dissatisfaction. Wife? Who are you calling wife? Su Qingcheng became angry and scolded with a tense body. We have signed a prenuptial agreement. Even though we haven't got the marriage certificate yet, it is still legally binding. Are you trying to cheat? Yi Chen shrugged and said casually. Su Qingcheng took a deep breath, glared at Yi Chen, and had no intention of arguing with Yi Chen. She simply opened the car door and sat in the driver's seat. Yi Chen smiled, turned around, opened the passenger door and sat in. After Yi Chen sat in the passenger seat, Su Qingcheng looked at him with cold eyes. The chill in her eyes made Yi Chen feel a little creepy. Su Qingcheng, we are in the car. You don't have any bad intentions towards me, do you? If you really have any intentions, it would be more appropriate to do it at home. Yi Chen coughed twice and smiled awkwardly. You can't spit out ivory from a dog's mouth. It's all because you beat Jiang Wenhao. Do you know how much effort I put in to stop Jiang Zijin? Su Qingcheng said angrily, you beat up the director's son on your first day at work. Can you still tear down the company tomorrow? This is not my responsibility. Jiang Wenhao brought security guards to beat me up. I can't just not fight back. Yi Chen said casually, this Su Group is too dark. The son of the director can lead the security guards of the security department to run rampant in the company. This should be properly managed. People who don't know would think it is a gang. You? Su Qingcheng was choked by Yi Chen's words. Is this blaming her for not managing the company well? However, what happened today was indeed due to her failure to manage the security department well. The security guards in the security department dared to attack their own employees. If this matter were to spread, it would be a blow to the reputation of the Su Group. Su Qingcheng leaned back in her chair, a look of fatigue on her face. Is it very troublesome? Yi Chen looked at the tired look on Su Qingcheng's face and said softly. Chapter 14 Get the marriage certificate with Su Qingcheng. After all, Su Qingcheng is his daughter-in-law. Although she has not yet married into the family, her status has been determined. Yi Chen absolutely could not tolerate his woman being bullied by outsiders. Su Qingcheng looked at the serious expression on Yi Chen's face and felt relieved for no reason. Jiang Wenhao is Jiang Zijin's son. Jiang Zijin was my father's brother in the past. He has a lot of influence in the Su Group and has good relationships with some other old directors. He has always been very dissatisfied with me being the president and managing the company. This time I stopped Jiang Wenhao's business, and I'm afraid Jiang Zijin will not let it go. Su Qingcheng hesitated for a moment, but still briefly recounted these things. They want control of the Su Group. Yi Chen frowned. When my father was alive, they didn't dare to have any ideas. Now they just think that I am a woman who is easy to bully. A hint of coldness flashed in Su Qingcheng's eyes. If you have any trouble, I'll help you deal with it. Yi Chen said softly, after all, I am your husband, your business is my business, and I can't let outsiders have bad intentions. This is my business, it has nothing to do with you. Su Qingcheng glared at Yi Chen and drove out of the parking lot. What a stubborn woman. Yi Chen looked at Su Qingcheng helplessly and asked casually, where are you going? Civil Affairs Bureau. Su Qingcheng uttered 3 words. What are you going to the Civil Affairs Bureau for? Isn't the Civil Affairs Bureau closing now? Yi Chen was stunned for a moment and asked subconsciously. I have already made an appointment with the Civil Affairs Bureau, and there will be special staff to process the certificate for us. Although Su Qingcheng's voice sounded cold, Yi Chen could still hear the complex meaning in Su Qingcheng's voice. Obviously, this was the first time in life that Su Qingcheng got married. Even if she pretended to be calm, it was difficult to hide the turmoil in her heart. Rich people are indeed different. Yi Chen sighed. Su Qingcheng frowned slightly and drove with a cold face, ignoring Yi Chen's intentions. Soon, Su Qingcheng drove to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Under the guidance of the staff, Su Qingcheng and Yi Chen began to apply for the most important marriage certificate in their lives. It was unknown how much time had passed before Su Qingcheng and Yi Chen returned to the car. Su Qingcheng looked at the marriage certificate in her hand, and a hint of confusion flashed across her eyes. In the world of a strong woman like Su Qingcheng, marriage should be a very distant thing. But in this unexpected situation, everything changed. Even Yi Chen felt a little complicated when he saw the marriage certificate. Su Qingcheng was silent for a while, then drove directly out of the Civil Affairs Bureau and headed towards Zhonghai's famous Qianfu community. Qianfu community is a well-known high-end villa area of China overseas. It has an excellent geographical location, is not far from the Huangpu River, and has fresh air. It is a well-known wealthy area of China overseas. After Su Qingcheng returned to China to work, she has been living in this Qianfu community. Su Qingcheng, you live in such a big villa alone. After entering Su Qingcheng's home, Yi Chen had a very intuitive understanding of Su Qingcheng's wealth. Living alone in a luxurious single-family villa of more than 300 square meters is really too luxurious. I live on the 2nd floor and you live on the 1st floor. You are not allowed to come to the 2nd floor without my invitation. Su Qingcheng said calmly. You're not having dinner? Yi Chen asked casually. I'm not hungry. There are vegetables in the kitchen. If you want to eat, make it yourself. Su Qingcheng said this with a cold face, and went straight up to the 2nd floor with the work documents. What a workaholic. Yi Chen shook his head slightly. It was obvious that no one else lived in this huge 3-story villa except Su Qingcheng. The entire 1st floor was vacant, and Yi Chen randomly selected a room with a nice view and moved in. After Yi Chen tidied up the room, he left the villa and walked towards the city. At night, the Mediterranean Sea is filled with flashing neon lights, making the city look magnificent. At night, the city's real nightlife begins. Yi Chen didn't know how long he had been walking before he arrived at a slightly luxurious bar. As soon as he walked into the bar, waves of exciting music filled Yi Chen's ears. The gorgeous lights, exciting music, and the beauties twisting their bodies on the dance floor can instantly make people forget all their worries and stimulate their true inner desires. A glass of whiskey. Yi Chen came to the bar, looked at the bartender, and snapped his fingers. The bartender at the bar is a little beauty, dressed very charmingly. Because of this, there are many men sitting around the bar, and they seem to have some feelings for this bartender. Your drink, sir. The beautiful bartender placed a glass of whiskey in front of Yi Chen and threw a coquettish glance at him. Yi Chen picked up the wine glass and took a sip. The strong smell of alcohol combined with the explosive music in the bar made Yi Chen feel extremely comfortable. It's like going back to the time when we were fighting in the West. After every battle, Yi Chen would choose to go to the bar to relieve stress. Wine and women are the best things to relieve stress. Yi Chen shook the wine glass in his hand, watching the wine change color under the light, his eyes slightly deep. Men with stories are most likely to attract women, especially men like Yi Chen who look very handsome. In this bar, it is definitely the most eye-catching high-quality resource. Handsome, drinking alone. At this moment, a woman in extremely revealing clothes, holding a wine glass, slowly walked to Yi Chen's side with a charming smile on her face. Yi Chen smelled the strong perfume emanating from the woman and frowned slightly. Handsome guy, isn't it boring to drink alone? Do you want me to accompany you? The beauty showed a charming smile on her face, moved closer to Yi Chen, bent down slightly, and her extremely revealing suspenders exposed a large area of skin. I don't own this bar, so just sit down if you want. Yi Chen took a sip of wine and said casually. Handsome boy, why don't you buy me a drink? Maybe something wonderful can happen tonight. The beautiful woman showed a charming look in her eyes. She sat next to Yi Chen and smiled sweetly. Sister, next time you go fishing, it's best not to apply so much white powder. It looks creepy at night. Yi Chen chuckled and said casually, looking at your face, I have no interest at all. When the beautiful woman heard this, her expression suddenly changed. Where did you come from, you poor loser? Don't you know what kind of person you are? It's your blessing that I like you, bar. The beautiful woman snorted coldly, and turned away with a look of displeasure on her face, angry at Yi Chen. Yi Chen showed a smile on his face, and he was not angry. He drank and looked around casually in the bar. At this moment, Yi Chen's attention was suddenly attracted by a beautiful woman not far away. Chapter 15. Who is your brother? Get lost. Sitting in a booth not far from Yi Chen was a beautiful woman who looked a little childish. She looks young, even a bit like a high school student, with extremely delicate facial features. Even with Yi Chen's aesthetic standards, he thinks this beauty is a beauty. She will definitely be a stunning beauty when she grows up. However, the way this beauty is dressed makes her look like a rebellious girl, absolutely non-mainstream. He was wearing a low-waisted t-shirt, ripped jeans, and a skull bracelet on his wrist. The only thing he lacked was dyeing his hair in all sorts of colors. The little beauty seemed to be in a bad mood. She was sitting alone in a booth drinking wine, her delicate little face flushed. A beauty, and a top-notch little loli, is the most eye-catching in this kind of bar. If Yi Chen and Su Qingcheng had not already obtained their marriage certificate, Yi Chen would have definitely stepped forward to say hello to a beauty of this level. However, just because Yi Chen has no ideas doesn't mean that others don't have any ideas. Soon, several thugs with colorful hair, led by a burly man with scars all over his face, came over laughing and sat directly next to the beauty. Little beauty, what's the point of drinking alone? Do you want us to drink with you? One of the men with dyed red hair looked at the beauty with a sly smile on his face and reached out to grab the wine glass in the beauty's hand. Go away, can't you see that I'm annoyed? The beautiful lady snorted and angrily said, don't bother me from drinking. Perhaps she was a little drunk, even though this beautiful woman looked angry, her voice was soft. To the ears of these gangsters, it sounded even more tempting. You have personality. We like beauties with personality like you. The man with the scar on his face grinned, looked at the beauty greedily, and put his hand around her waist. Get lost. A hint of annoyance flashed in the beautiful woman's eyes, and she reached out and slapped his hand. With a slap, Scar Brother's hand was slapped away. Little beauty, you don't give me, Scarface, face. Why don't you ask who is protecting this area? If you don't give me, Scarface, face, do you believe you won't be able to leave this bar? A younger brother next to him changed his expression and said fiercely. How can you talk like that? Don't scare the little beauty. Scar Brother glared at the younger brother, then looked at the beautiful woman with a lewd smile on his face. Little beauty, have a few drinks with me. After we finish the wine on the table, we'll leave. How about that? Scar Brother chuckled and winked at the younger brother next to him. The younger brothers nearby understood what he meant and took a few bottles of foreign wine and placed them on the table. The beautiful woman looked at the bottles of foreign liquor on the table and her expression changed slightly. With so many foreign liquors, let alone her, even someone who can drink would probably feel dizzy after drinking them. Drink your head. The beautiful lady rolled her eyes, picked up the wine glass on the table, and poured it directly on the scarred man's face. Then she nimbly flipped out from under the booth. Boss. The faces of the younger brothers nearby changed. What a beautiful lady with a unique personality. Tonight I will let you have a good taste of your scarred brother's power. Scar wiped the wine off his face and shouted angrily, catch her for me. A few young men nearby chuckled, hurried forward and stopped the beauty directly. What are you doing? Let me tell you, if you dare to touch me, I will not be polite. The beautiful woman looked at the thugs in front of her, gritted her teeth and shouted angrily. Brothers, we just want to know, how can you be so rude? Several hooligans laughed, their eyes full of lewdness. How dare you throw wine at our boss? Just apologize to him and we'll let it go. The beautiful woman bit her red lips lightly, looking at the burly thugs in front of her, a hint of timidity flashed in her eyes. How could a weak woman like her deal with so many thugs? I say, isn't it a bit too shameless for so many of you to bully a girl? At this moment, Yi Chen walked over slowly with a wine glass. Oh, there are still people who are not afraid of death and dare to interfere in my affairs. Who are you? Are you looking for death? Scar brother looked at Yi Chen, who was walking over. A look of displeasure appeared on his face, and he said gloomily, "Me? I'm your father." Yi Chen took a sip of whiskey and said indifferently, "You're looking for death." Scar brother was furious. "What are you guys still standing there for? Teach him a lesson." A few younger brothers nearby came to their senses and punched Yi Chen. Yi Chen held the wine glass in his hand, suddenly raised his leg, and kicked the thugs directly in the chest and abdomen. With a bang, these younger brothers screamed and were kicked away by Yi Chen. They flew several meters away and knocked the booths next to them to the ground. "Uncle, you are awesome." The beautiful lady next to him brightened her eyes and cheered excitedly. Scar brother looked at Yi Chen and his pupils shrank slightly. The opponent made his move in an instant and easily knocked down his younger brothers without even spilling their wine in his glass. It is obvious that the other party is a master. This time he hit a wall. "I, Scar, admit defeat this time." "Brother, which gang are you from?" "My boss is Cao Shijie, you should know him." "Please give me some face and I will give this woman to you." Scar brother took a deep breath and chose to bow to Yi Chen. "If you are in the underworld, you have to bow your head when it is time, otherwise you will die without knowing how you died. Scar brother is very clear about this." "Cao Shijie." Yi Chen frowned slightly. In his impression, he didn't know this person. "Brother, do you know my boss? It seems that the flood today has washed away the Dragon King temple, and family members no longer recognize each other." Scar brother looked at Yi Chen's expression and a smile appeared on his face. "Who are you? Today is a good day. I don't want to see blood. Get out of here." A cold look flashed in Yi Chen's eyes, and he kicked Scar brother in the chest and abdomen. With a bang, Scar brother was kicked out by Yi Chen and rolled on the ground for several times before he stopped. Scar brother gasped, his face turned pale with pain, and he struggled to get up from the ground. "I'll remember what happened today. See you later." Scar brother gritted his teeth, uttered a cruel word, and limped away with the support of his younger brothers. "Uncle, you are so awesome. I have never seen anyone as good at fighting as you. You are like a Superman." The beautiful girl next to him looked at Yi Chen excitedly. "My name is Ning Tongtong, uncle, you can call me Tongtong." "Who is your uncle? Am I that old?" "You little girl is trying to imitate others by going to bars and drinking. Now you know the danger. If I wasn't there this time, you would be in big trouble." Yi Chen looked at Ning Tongtong and said unhappily. Tongtong knows he was wrong. Ning Tongtong pouted, with a pitiful look on her face. "Okay, this is not a place for you to stay. Don't come here anymore. I'll take you home first." Yi Chen looked at Ning Tongtong's pitiful expression, a look of helplessness appeared on his face, and for a moment he was too embarrassed to scold her. "Uncle, I can take a taxi home by myself. See you next time." Ning Tongtong was also frightened this time. She waved at Yi Chen and jumped away. Yi Chen shook his head helplessly, turned to look in the direction of the second floor of the bar, and followed Ning Tongtong away. Chapter 16: The Past of the Northern God of War. The second floor of the bar is a relatively hidden place. Two women and one man stood on the second floor of the bar and saw everything that had just happened clearly. The woman in the lead was wearing a red dress. Her delicate facial features, especially her pair of phoenix eyes, made her look extremely charming. She is the owner of this bar, Lin Hongyu. "Sister Hongyu, Cao Shijie has gone too far. He actually asked his subordinate Scar to come to our bar to cause trouble. This is clearly crossing the line. He is now increasingly looking down on us." The woman next to the woman in red had an angry look on her face. "Cao Shijie has really stretched his hand too far recently. It seems that he wants to swallow up my territory in the west as well." Lin Hongyu said calmly, "With such a big appetite, you're not afraid of getting a stomachache. Miss, do you want me to go to Cao Shijie's territory and return the favor to them?" The man next to Lin Hongyu said with a cold face. "Cao Shijie is a bold and careful person. Since he asked Scar to test me, I'm afraid he has already made preparations. If you go, I'm afraid you will be in danger." Lin Hongyu said softly. "Even if Cao Shijie takes action himself, he can't stop me." The man raised a look of disdain at the corner of his mouth. "Wait a little longer. Now is not the time to fight him." Lin Hongyu shook her head slightly and said softly, "On the contrary, this man who suddenly appeared today is quite interesting. When this person left, he looked towards our location on purpose. He must have discovered us. The man next to Lin Hongyu frowned and said in a deep voice, "You have a keen observation ability. It is rare to find us in such a chaotic bar. Brother Lu, how strong is this guy?" The woman at the side asked curiously. Although Scarface is not a famous fighter under Cao Shijie, he is not a good for nothing. He was beaten so badly that he didn't even have the strength to fight back. Very strong. Such a strong master actually appeared in Zhonghai. I am really surprised. Although Scar and his men are not worth mentioning, after the fight, their wine in the glass did not fluctuate at all. He must be a top master. Brother Lu frowned, his face full of seriousness. How strong is he? Are you sure you can beat him? Lin Hongyu hesitated for a moment and said softly. It's hard to say. We can only know after a fight. Scar's strength is not enough to test his true strength. A hint of hesitation flashed across little brother Lu's eyes, and he spoke softly. When Lin Hongyu heard this, a bright light flashed in her eyes. It's quite interesting. When did such a master appear in Zhonghai? Lin Hongyu showed a charming smile on her face. She was very clear about Brother Lu's strength. She was able to conquer such a large territory in Zhonghai thanks to Brother Lu's great contribution. This person is a capable assistant trained by her father for her and is also her support. Even Brother Lu didn't have the confidence that he could beat him, so it was obvious that the opponent was very strong. Such a person would definitely not be an unknown person in Zhonghai. Meng, check this man's identity. Maybe you can cooperate with him. Even if you can't cooperate, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Now that he has been scarred in public, Cao Shijie will not ignore it. Let's just sit back and watch the fight. Lin Hongyu raised a faint smile and turned back into their house. Yes, Sister Hongyu. The woman called Meng nodded and quickly left the second floor of the bar. Yi Chen and Ning Tongtong left the bar. After Yi Chen watched Ning Tongtong get into a taxi, he staggered towards the Qianfu Villa district. At this moment, Yi Chen's cell phone suddenly rang. Yi Chen took out his cell phone and took a look. It was an encrypted phone number. Yi Chen frowned and answered the call directly. Boss, have you arrived at Zhonghai? How are you getting along with your sister-in-law? As soon as the phone was connected, an extremely loud voice was heard. Officer Chen, is this the question you should ask? Yi Chen raised a faint smile and said unhappily. Boss, what you said is really too formal. I am your adjutant and the deputy master of Yarmar Palace. Aren't you treating me as an outsider? Officer Chen said as a matter of course, as your most trusted lieutenant, I have the right to deal with your private life, boss. What adjutant or not, that's all in the past. Yi Chen casually asked, how is the situation in the West? It has been dealt with. How dare a group of blind people touch our people in Yarmar Palace? Officer Chen chuckled and said, I still have some things to finish here. After I finish, I will go to Zhonghai to find you, boss. I have been away from China for so many years and I haven't been back for a long time. Okay, let's talk about it when you come back. Yi Chen nodded. By the way, Lao Qian's sister should be in Zhonghai, do you want to go and see her? There was silence on the phone for a while, and then he spoke softly. Lao Qian's sister? If it weren't for me, Lao Qian wouldn't have died in a foreign land, and his body wouldn't have been found. A complex look flashed across Yi Chen's eyes. Following Officer Chen's words, Yi Chen recalled everything that had happened in the past. As the ace captain of the Northern Special Forces, Yi Chen led several guards into the enemy's territory in a secret operation and encountered an ambush by an enemy division. This battle was extremely brutal. The guards led by Yi Chen suffered heavy casualties. Lao Qian just wanted to protect Yi Chen and eventually sacrificed himself in front of him. Yi Chen can still recall the expectation in Lao Qian's eyes when he sacrificed himself. The king dies for his country, and the emperor guards the national border. Chinese soldiers should protect the country and its people. Although Yi Chen eventually wiped out thousands of enemy troops by himself, it was difficult to save the lives of Lao Qian and others. Even the bodies of Lao Qian and others could not be found. If old Qian and the others knew that you, boss, avenged him, they would have no regrets in the afterlife. Qin Guan's voice was full of complexity. In order to avenge his dead brothers such as Lao Qian, Yi Chen violated military orders and led the northern soldiers to destroy the enemy country in one fell swoop. The world was shocked. Even the top leaders of China could not withstand the pressure from countries around the world and protect Yi Chen. Otherwise, Yi Chen today should be the number one person in the north, and the well-deserved number one god of war in China. As Yi Chen's adjutant, Officer Chen felt both admiration and regret. Let's not talk about this anymore. Yi Chen took a deep breath and said softly, I won't go to Lao Tian's sister's place. When you return to Zhonghai, go there for me. Okay, let's talk about it when I get back to Zhonghai. Officer Chen nodded. Yi Chen hung up the phone, put down his phone, looked at the sky full of stars, and a complex look flashed in his eyes. Chapter 17 Jiang Wenhao's Revenge. The China Overseas Golden and Splendid Club is the most luxurious club in the entire Dongcheng district and also the club with the best public security in Dongcheng district. Even the most arrogant gangsters dare not cause trouble in such a magnificent place. Because the owner of this magnificent building is Cao Shijie, the boss of Dongcheng district. He is also one of the famous heroes in Zhonghai. It is precisely because of this that this magnificent place has always been the favorite place of the wealthy. There are countless guests coming and going every day. At this time, Scar, supported by several of his younger brothers, limped to the largest box on the top floor. What's going on? Cao Shijie, who was sitting in the middle of the box, took a puff of his cigar, blew out a smoke ring, and looked indifferently at Scar, who walked in. Boss, you have to make the decision for me. Scar had a sad face and knelt down in front of Cao Shijie. Lin Hongyu attacked you? Cao Shijie asked casually. Lin Hongyu has not shown up. He is a master in Lin Hongyue's field. He is obviously a martial artist. Maybe he was ordered by Lin Hongyu. Scar gritted his teeth and told everything that had happened before. Interesting. When did Lin Hongyu find such a master? Cao Shijie narrowed his eyes slightly, and a sharp look flashed in his eyes. Boss, Lin Hongyu knew that Scar was your man, but she still dared to attack him in her place. This was probably Lin Hongyue's instruction. It's obvious that she wanted to kill your spirit. A middle-aged man next to him said gloomily, this Lin Hongyu doesn't take you seriously at all. Why don't we let the brothers take action and tie this Lin Hongyu up for you? This Lin Hongyu is a famous beauty in Zhonghai. It would be perfect for you to be a concubine. That's right, Lin Hongyu really doesn't take the boss seriously. Several younger brothers nearby echoed in unison. Lin Hongyu cannot move yet. The person next to her is quite powerful. Now is not the time to make a move. However, her little brother dares to touch my people. If I don't show my support, people will really think that I, Cao Shijie, am afraid of Lin Hongyu. A hint of coldness flashed across Cao Shijie's eyes. Find some people, let Scar lead the way, and bring the man who did it to me. I want him alive. Seeing that Cao Shijie was willing to take action, a hint of excitement suddenly appeared on Scar's face. At this moment, a man in a black suit walked quickly in from outside the door and whispered into Cao Shijie's ear. Boss, Jiang Wenhao from Su Group wants to see you. Jiang Wenhao? What does he want from me? Cao Shijie raised his eyebrows and said casually, let him in. Yes, boss. The man in the black suit walked out of the room quickly and took Jiang Wenhao into the box. Boss Cao, long time no see. Jiang Wenhao showed a flattering smile on his face. Although he was a director of the Su Group, he was still extremely polite when facing a well-known figure like Cao Shijie. Mr. Jiang, what brings you here? It's been a while since you came to visit my magnificent hotel. Cao Shijie sat upright in the box with a smile on his face. I've been too busy recently, and something happened recently, so I finally have time to come to Boss Cao's place to play, right? Jiang Wenhao said slowly, I came here this time to ask Boss Cao for a favor. Help? Coming to me for help, it seems like it's not a trivial matter. Cao Shijie said casually. It's not a big deal, it's just that it's not convenient for me to show up. Jiang Wenhao took out a photo from his pocket and placed it in front of Cao Shijie. This is an employee of my Su Group, named Chen. He beat my son into the hospital today. I would like to ask Boss Cao to send a few brothers to help me give him a good beating. A hint of coldness flashed across Jiang Wenhao's eyes. I want him to spend the rest of his life in the hospital. Interesting. As a director of the company, you have employees who dare to attack your son. You have many capable men under you. Why did you come to me? Cao Shijie glanced at the photos on the table, took a puff of his cigar, and said casually. This Chen is very skilled. Several retired special forces soldiers in the company are no match for him. I'm afraid these people under my command are no match for him either. Jiang Wenhao said helplessly. Besides, that woman Su Qingcheng wants to protect him, so it's even more inconvenient for me to take action. I can only trouble Boss Cao. Even retired special forces soldiers are no match for him. Interesting. Cao Shijie raised his eyebrows slightly, glanced at Yi Chen's photo, and said softly, Director Jiang, the price of asking me to do it is not cheap, you know this. Of course, we won't let Boss Cao take action for nothing. Jiang Wenhao was prepared. He took out a card from his pocket and placed it on the table in front of Cao Shijie. There is 500,000 in this card. Just consider it as a little gift from me. Jiang Wenhao chuckled. Director Jiang is still generous. In that case, I will take over the business. I will get rid of him within a week at the latest. Cao Shijie took a puff of his cigar and said softly. Then I'll trouble you, Boss Cao. I'll go first. Jiang Wenhao showed a look of satisfaction on his face and turned to leave the box. Since you've received the money, check his identity. If there's no problem, find someone to kill him. Cao Shijie picked up the photo on the table, took a look at it, and handed it to a man in black next to him. Yes, boss. The man in black nodded. Scar subconsciously looked at the photo in the black-clothed man's hand at this time, and suddenly felt that the photo looked familiar. After taking a closer look, he discovered that it was the person who attacked him tonight. Boss, this person is the one who attacked me in Lin Hongyue's place tonight. Scar said excitedly at this time. Scar, are you sure? Cao Shijie raised his eyebrows and looked at Scar. Look carefully for me. The man in black next to him handed the photo to Scar. Boss, I'm definitely not mistaken, it's this guy. Scar looked at Yi Chen in the photo in his hand with a gloomy face and nodded vigorously. Interesting, it seems that this guy's identity is not simple. No wonder Jiang Wenhao came to me, but now that the money has been taken, even if he has the support of Lin Hongyu, he will definitely die. A cold look flashed across Cao Shijie's eyes. He tapped the wooden table with his fingers and said, Qianlong, you go there yourself and take care of this man. When the men around heard the name Qianlong, their faces were filled with surprise. Zhao Qianlong is the most powerful general under Cao Shijie and a well-known figure in the whole Zhonghai. To deal with an unknown person, Zhao Qianlong actually took action. Boss, isn't it a bit of a waste of talent to let Qianlong take action? The man in black at the side said hesitantly. Use this kid to intimidate Lin Hongyu and let her know that she cannot touch my, Cao Shijie's, people. Cao Shijie said indifferently. Boss, don't worry. Even if that woman Lin Hongyu takes action, I will destroy this guy. Zhao Qianlong showed a cruel smile. I haven't done anything for a long time, so I'll have some fun with this kid. I hope he can make me happy. The many younger brothers around looked at the cruel smile on Zhao Qianlong's face, and suddenly felt a chill rising from their hearts. No one targeted by Zhao Qianlong can escape from his hands alive. As for Yi Chen, they had already sentenced him to death in their hearts. Chapter 18 Don't Let Me Meet You Again. The next morning, Yi Chen woke up and the sun was rising slightly. The rising sun shone into the house. Yi Chen sat cross-legged on the balcony, basking in the sunshine and breathing regularly. This is an unnamed martial art taught to him by the old man. It can be considered a kind of internal energy. With the help of the rising sunlight and absorbing the essence of the sun, one can temper one's own physique and nourish one's innate essence. Yi Chen never gave up even for a single day during these years and practiced for more than 10 years. It is precisely because of this set of nameless martial arts that Yi Chen has the combat power he has today. Half an hour passed, until the sun really rose, and Yi Chen slowly exhaled a puff of white mist. After finishing the daily compulsory studies, Yi Chen went into the bathroom, took a shower, changed his clothes and came out. At this time, Su Qingcheng had already gone to work. Yi Chen looked at the empty kitchen and shook his head helplessly. Then he took a car key from the key box in the living room and went to the parking lot. I didn't expect that my cheap wife would be so rich. Looking at the various luxury cars in the parking lot, Yi Chen couldn't help but click his tongue. From BMW and Mercedes-Benz to Ferrari and Lamborghini, this garage has everything. This small garage is big enough to hold a car show. Yi Chen pressed the car key and a red BMW rang. Yi Chen didn't mind the obviously feminine color. He got in the car and drove straight out of the community. Before going to work, Chen found a roadside stall and had breakfast. I have to say, if you drive a red BMW to a roadside stall to have breakfast, you will get a lot of attention. Chen has seen several white-collar beauties winking at him. As long as Chen flirts with them casually, he should have a good encounter today. Chen had a simple breakfast at a roadside stall and had just paid when a tall and beautiful woman walked up to the BMW, took out her cell phone and took a picture of the license plate. Chen took a glance and found that it was a tall and beautiful woman. She wore a white t-shirt and a pair of jeans, and her figure looked perfect. You can tell at first glance that she is a woman who exercises regularly and has no extra fat on her body. Whose car is this? Xu Xianyang frowned slightly and shouted in the direction of the breakfast shop. My car, what's wrong? Chen frowned, walked over and asked with a puzzled look on his face. Do you know that this is a no parking zone? Xu Xianyang looked at Chen and said coldly. Only then did Chen see Xu Xianyang's appearance clearly. She had beautiful facial features and was definitely a beauty. If she didn't look so cold and frosty, Chen would have given her a few more points. It's just a temporary stop to have breakfast. It's not a big deal. Chen frowned and said helplessly. You can just violate traffic rules and park wherever you want as long as it doesn't get in the way. Xu Xianyang said coldly, I have taken the photo. I will go to the traffic police station to pay the fine later. Pay the fine? Pretty girl, that's a bit inhumane. Besides, even if I parked illegally, what's the point of taking a photo? You're not trying to flirt with me, are you? You know what, this trick is pretty new. Chen's eye swept over Xu Xianyang's body, lingered slightly on her chest, and a smile appeared on his face. I was just having breakfast, how could this happen? Do you think he can be bullied because he drives a BMW? There are so many cars parked nearby, but he insists on picking on him. Isn't this obviously looking for an opportunity to strike up a conversation? However, I have to say that the girl in front of me is definitely a beautiful woman with good looks, especially her figure, which is well proportioned. Chen's obviously bold gaze made Xu Xianyang's face darken slightly. If I say you parked illegally, then you parked illegally. I'm a police officer. Do you think my words have any effect? Xu Xianyang took out her work ID from her pocket and showed it to Chen. Chen glanced at his work ID, then looked at Xu Xianyang. It was a person. Officer Xu, checking illegal parking is the job of the traffic police, it seems that it is not your responsibility. Are you overstepping your authority? Chen frowned, glanced at Xu Xianyang, and chuckled, Officer Xu is here for breakfast too, right? Why don't I treat you to breakfast and let this matter be over? It's not up to you to decide whether or not you're overstepping your authority. You actually dare to bribe the police. I now suspect you have a problem. Show me your ID and driver's license. Xu Xianyang was obviously unhappy about Chen's questioning, and her face suddenly became even colder as she was already in a bad mood. Officer Xu, are you taking this too far? Chen frowned and said seriously, everyone, forget about joking, I still have to go to work. If I'm late, will you reimburse me for my salary? Who's kidding you? Hurry up and show me your ID and driver's license. Do you believe I'll take you to the police station? Xu Xianyang frowned slightly, looking at Chen's slightly sharp eyes, feeling that her momentum was challenged, and her face was full of solemnity. Chen frowned, a look of helplessness appeared on his face. He reached into his pocket, took out his ID card and handed it to Xu Xianyang. I don't have my driver's license with me, but since you're a police officer, you should be able to find out if I have one. Chen shrugged and said casually. Xu Xianyang took a look at Chen's ID card, didn't see anything wrong, and then returned it to Chen. Officer Xu, if there's nothing else, I'll leave. Chen looked at the time and realized that if he didn't leave now, he would be late. Who told you to leave? Xu Xianyang was very angry at this time. I advise you to stop. I'm a good citizen and I haven't done anything wrong. If you have any evidence of my crime, you can take me away now. If not, then get out of the way and don't interfere with my work. I don't have time to chat with you. Chen said unhappily, is the police style in Zhonghai so bad now? Believe it or not, I will complain to your leader about you. You? Xu Xianyang was furious at Chen's words. At this time, Chen walked around Xu Xianyang, got into the car, and before leaving, he rolled down the window and looked at Xu Xianyang not far away. Officer Xu, I happen to know a little bit about medicine. I see that your face is a little blue, your eye circles are dark, and you have a bad temper. This is a sign of liver qi stagnation, which is definitely caused by endocrine disorders. Chen said seriously, you are so young, if you don't treat it well, the problem will be very serious. Go back and drink some Tai oral liquid, maybe it can alleviate your condition. As soon as Chen finished speaking, he waved his hand and drove away. Madam Oral Solution. Xu Xuanyan's face froze and she immediately became red with anger. She wished she could just pull Chen out of the car. Chen, right? You'd better pray that I don't meet you again, or I'll let you know how powerful I am. Xu Xuanyan gritted her teeth, looked at the direction Chen left, and said viciously in her heart. Chapter 19 Mental Damage Compensation. Chen looked at Xu Xuanyan's frustrated look in the rearview mirror and a smile appeared on his face. Chen didn't care whether Xu Xuanyan would send out the photos of his illegal parking. Anyway, it's Su Qingqing's car, so even if there is a fine, she will have to pay it. However, this female policewoman in Zhonghai has a very bad temper. Chen couldn't help but feel that it was a bad sign to encounter such a strange thing when he came out to have breakfast. At the very least, because of Xu Xuanyan's harassment, he might be late this morning. Since being late was inevitable, Chen simply drove slowly back to the Su Group building. Good morning, Shuer. Chen walked into the hall and greeted Feng Shuer at the front desk. Chen, you are late on your first day at work. Feng Shuer looked at Chen who walked in and said with a sweet smile. I'm the assistant director of the marketing department. I'm in charge of the attendance of the marketing department. I have the final say on whether someone is late or not. Chen put his hand on the front desk and said with a smile. Chen, if President Su hears what you said, he will definitely punish you. Feng Shuer chuckled. I'm not just chatting with you casually. If President Su were here, I wouldn't dare say this. Chen chuckled and said casually. Chen, I heard that you had a conflict with Jiang Wenhao yesterday. Feng Shuer looked at Chen with curiosity at this time. Although Feng Shuer is only the receptionist, she has some understanding of the company's affairs. What's more, there were many witnesses to the conflict between Chen and Jiang Wenhao, and the news spread throughout the entire Su Group. Chen beat up Director Jiang's son, but he still came to work in the company as if nothing had happened. This made Feng Shuer a little curious about Chen. Without a certain background, you can't do this kind of thing. Jiang Wenhao? He's just a useless second generation who relies on his father being a director. Chen waved his hand and said nonchalantly. Feng Shue's expression changed slightly at this time, and she looked around subconsciously. No one noticed their conversation. Chen dared to say this to Jiang Wenhao, but she didn't. She was just a receptionist. If Director Jiang heard about it, she would lose her position as the receptionist. It's getting late, let's talk later. Chen waved his hand and walked towards the elevator. Feng Shuer looked at Chen's back, and a strange look flashed in her eyes. Feng Shuer has been working in the Su Group for several years, but this is the first time she has seen someone act so casually and domineeringly. Coupled with what Chen said when he came yesterday, a strange look flashed in Feng Shuer's eyes. He can't really be Mr. Su's fiancé. Feng Shuer muttered something softly, but then shook her head. A perfect woman like Ms. Su, who has both strength and beauty, would never date a man who looks so ordinary. Chen walked out of the elevator at this time and returned to the office area of the marketing department. At this time, the marketing staff who were already working subconsciously looked up at Chen, their eyes full of surprise. Chen looked at the surprise that flashed in these people's eyes and felt something strange for no reason. This feeling of being watched by everyone made Chen feel a little uncomfortable. Chen returned to his desk and just as he sat down, he saw Lu Qian walking towards him with her slender waist twisted. Why are you looking at me like that? It's only been one night, and you don't recognize me anymore. Chen looked at the surprise in Lu Qian's eyes and said casually. I'm a little confused. We thought you hit Jiang Wenhao and would be suspended for a few days at least. I didn't expect that nothing happened. Lu Qian was half sitting on Chen's desk, her perfect figure fully displayed against the backdrop of her professional uniform. Jiang Zijin is the second most important person in the company after Su Qingcheng. His son was beaten into the hospital by Chen, but he didn't even show any reaction. This made Lu Qian even more curious about Chen's identity. What could it be? I just beat up a dandy boy, and I was on the defensive. Everyone saw it. I didn't ask Mr. Jiang for compensation for mental damages, which means I have a good temper. Yi Chen said unhappily. Moral damages. The corner of Lu Qian's mouth twitched slightly. After beating someone into the hospital, you're still asking his father for compensation for mental damages. Lu Qian didn't know what to say for a moment. I didn't expect you were fine. I was worried about you all night. Lu Qian glanced at Yi Chen with a resentful look on her face. I didn't expect Sister Lu to care about me so much. I'm really touched. Why don't I book a hotel after get off work so that I can make it up to her? Yi Chen chuckled. Bar. I knew you had bad intentions. Lu Qian spat lightly, glared at Yi Chen, and returned to her desk to work. At this time, Yi Chen looked at the empty desk with a bored look on his face. He didn't know what to do for a moment, so he turned his head and looked at Chiu Yuqing not far away. Sister Yuqing, you don't look very well. Are you sick? At this time, Yi Chen looked at Chiu Yuqing, whose face was obviously a little off, and said with concern. I'm fine. Thank you, Assistant Yi, for your concern. Chiu Yuqing bit her red lips lightly and shook her head quickly. Sister Yuqing, I'm the assistant to the director of the marketing department. If you have any difficulties, please let me know. This is my responsibility as an assistant. Yi Chen came over and said seriously. Thank you, Assistant Yi, but I really don't have anything to do. Chiu Yuqing's eyes flashed with emotion, but she still rejected Yi Chen's kindness. It's okay as long as there's nothing wrong. If you really have any difficulties, you can come to me at any time. Brother Yi will never refuse to help if I can. Since Chiu Yuqing was unwilling to say it, Yi Chen no longer forced her. Although they had only met for one day, Chiu Yuqing still left a good impression on Yi Chen. She is kind-hearted and friendly to others. If such a little girl has any difficulties, Yi Chen doesn't mind helping her. However, since Chiu Yuqing was a little shy and unwilling to speak, Yi Chen didn't know what to say. I'll let Lu Qian ask later. After all, women are the easiest to communicate with. With Shen Qinghan, an old classmate, around, Yi Chen became a free man in the marketing department. Basically, there was no work for him to handle. He originally thought that Jiang Zijin would come to cause trouble for him, but after waiting for a whole day, nothing happened. Soon, the whole day passed. When it was time to get off work, Yi Chen didn't know whether Su Qingcheng would get off work on time. After thinking about it, he decided not to wait for her and drove towards the villa alone. As soon as Yi Chen opened the door, he heard the sound of TV coming from the living room. Su Qingcheng actually got home faster than me. Did she leave work early because no one checked her attendance? Yi Chen showed a look of surprise on his face. When he walked into the living room, he saw Su Qingcheng sitting on the sofa in a very fashionable outfit, eating snacks and watching TV. Wife, you left work early without notifying me. Yi Chen walked over, a smile on his face, and sat down next to her. The beautiful woman on the sofa only then realized that there was suddenly a man in the living room. She screamed subconsciously as if she was frightened. The piercing sound made Yi Chen's eardrums tremble. Chapter 20. Beautiful sister-in-law. The beautiful lady next to him screamed, and without caring about the snacks in her hand, she stood up and looked at Yi Chen with a vigilant look. Hey honey, it shouldn't be like this after just one day of not seeing you. A look of helplessness appeared on Yi Chen's face. If it weren't for this stunningly beautiful face, Yi Chen would even have thought that Su Qingcheng had been possessed by someone else. Is he that scary? Is it like this? It wasn't like this when we were in the hotel suite. Who is your wife? Who are you? How did you get in? The beautiful woman in front of him looked at Yi Chen with vigilance, as if she was looking at a robber who broke into his house. Yi Chen felt something was wrong at this time. This voice is completely different from Su Qingcheng's voice. Although the beauty in front of him looks exactly like Su Qingcheng at first glance, there is an obvious sense of immaturity between her eyebrows. It's like Su Qingcheng, who is a few years younger. Aren't you Su Qingcheng? Yi Chen was also a little confused at this time. Of course I'm not. The beautiful woman in front of him said unhappily. Fuck, who are you? A frivolous look appeared on Yi Chen's face, and he suddenly shrank into the corner of the sofa, with his hands folded in front of him, like a girl being bullied by a bad guy. Yi Chen's exaggerated expression immediately made the beautiful woman in front of him laugh. You're not my brother-in-law, are you? When did my sister find a boyfriend and even brought him home? Are you living together? The beautiful woman in front of him stared at Yi Chen as if she had discovered a new continent, and the curiosity in her eyes reached its extreme. Are you Su Qingqing's sister? Yi Chen also came back to his senses at this time, looking at the beauty in front of him with surprise. No wonder she looks exactly like my wife. I have to say, his sister-in-law looks very similar to Su Qingqing. It's like they were printed from the same mold. My name is Su Xiaoyi, and I'm Su Qingqing's sister. Su Xiaoyi introduced himself. It turned out to be my sister-in-law. I was shocked. Yi Chen coughed and said with a smile, my name is Yi Chen, I am your brother-in-law. I've never heard my sister say that he's dating someone. Brother-in-law, you're really capable. You look ordinary, but you can actually hook up with my sister. Su Xiaoyi looked at Yi Chen in amazement. The people who pursue my sister can line up from here to the Huangpu River. There is no elite in the entire Zhonghai who does not fall at the feet of my sister. I didn't expect that you, my brother-in-law, would succeed. You are really amazing. Upon hearing this, Yi Chen's mouth twitched slightly. I have to say, his sister-in-law has a really vicious mouth. Although it looked like he was praising him, when he listened carefully, something didn't seem right. Is this saying that he is trying to get ahead of himself, or that he is a lazy toad trying to eat swan meat? Ahem, if your brother-in-law wasn't capable, would your sister like me? Yi Chen coughed twice, a smug look on his face. A hint of admiration flashed in Su Xiaoyi's eyes. Just as he was about to speak, the door suddenly opened and Su Qingqing walked in wearing high heels. Xiaoyi, why are you back? Su Qingqing walked into the living room and saw Su Xiaoyi, her brows slightly frowned. I miss you so much. Tomorrow is the weekend and the school is closed, so I came back to see you. Why don't you welcome your lovely sister? Su Xiaoyi pouted, ran to Su Qingqing, hugged her arm, and acted coquettishly. Welcome. A doting look flashed in Su Qingqing's eyes. Su Qingqing really had no idea what to do with her unruly and willful sister. Qingqing, why didn't you tell me that you have a younger sister? And they look so similar that it almost caused a misunderstanding. A look of helplessness appeared on Yi Chen's face. What does it have to do with you? She's my sister, not your sister. Su Qingqing said unhappily. Why is your sister still my sister? We are married, so your sister is naturally my sister. Yi Chen said seriously. Sister, you're married? Why didn't you tell me? Su Xiaoyi's eyes were full of shock. It would be fine if they were just dating and living together, but they were already married, and her sister was totally unaware of it. This is huge news. If it gets out, the whole Zhonghai will probably be shocked. There's nothing to say. Su Qingqing frowned slightly. She didn't want to tell Su Xiaoyi what happened between them. It would be better to say nothing. How can there be nothing to say about such a big thing? Su Xiaoyi's face was full of dissatisfaction. I went upstairs to work. Su Qingqing said this with a cold face, and then went straight upstairs. Your sister is here, and you go upstairs to work without even accompanying her. How disrespectful. Before Yi Chen could finish his words, he saw Su Qingqing looking at him with cold eyes, and he immediately swallowed back the rest of his words. When Su Qingqing went upstairs, Su Xiaoyi came over. Brother-in-law, it seems that your family status is not very high. Su Xiaoyi looked at Yi Chen with a mischievous look and laughed. What do you know? I am taking care of your sister. I am giving her face because you are here. Normally, I would never allow her to be so arrogant. Yi Chen raised his eyebrows and said seriously. Really? Su Xiaoyi looked at Yi Chen with a very suspicious look. Of course, don't you see who your brother-in-law is? Yi Chen showed a smug look on his face. Brother-in-law, how did you impress my sister? Su Xiaoyi looked at Yi Chen with curiosity. I know my sister's personality. She is a famous iceberg beauty in Zhonghai. Apart from work, she doesn't even have any hobbies. She is simply a workaholic. I didn't expect that you, my brother-in-law, can even take down such an iceberg president. It's really admirable. Yi Chen couldn't help but reveal a smug look on his face when he was praised by Su Xiaoyi. Although he and Su Qingqing got married because of an engagement, Su Xiaoyi was obviously unaware of it. In this case, Yi Chen naturally couldn't let the secret slip. Obviously, his image in the eyes of his sister-in-law has become very tall. I, your brother-in-law, don't have many advantages. If there is any advantage that can impress your sister, it is probably my handsomeness. Yi Chen coughed, shook his hair slightly, and his face was full of emotion. Handsome. Su Xiaoyi was stunned for a moment. and suddenly couldn't hold back and laughed out loud. Brother-in-law, although you don't look that ordinary, you don't seem to match the so-called handsomeness. You are bragging without even thinking. Su Xiaoyi tried hard to suppress her smile and almost said that Yi Chen was too narcissistic. She had seen many handsome men, but none of them was as handsome as Yi Chen. Girl, how can you talk to your brother-in-law like that? Yi Chen said unhappily. This sister-in-law simply doesn't give him any face at all. Chapter 21 The Sinister Sister-in-Law. Su Xiaoyi looked at Yi Chen, and really couldn't figure out what was so mysterious about this suddenly appearing brother-in-law who could actually subdue Su Qingcheng. However, since Yi Chen has already moved into the villa, and Su Qingcheng and his father have no objection, and Su Qingcheng has even obtained a marriage certificate with Yi Chen, Su Xiaoyi knows that the matter is a foregone conclusion. She knew Su Qingcheng's character. Since they had already obtained the certificate, she would not have any other thoughts. Being faithful to one person has been the life creed that Su Qingcheng has established since childhood. Brother-in-law, are you living in the same room with my sister now? Su Xiaoyi looked at Yi Chen and chuckled. When are you planning to have a baby? You want a baby? Yi Chen showed a look of astonishment on his face. Su Xiaoyi's question was definitely a bit tricky. Even Yi Chen hadn't thought about it in this regard. It's too early to have a child. Your sister isn't ready yet. In order to take care of her, I'm staying in the guest room for a while. Yi Chen acted as if he was considering Su Qingcheng in every way. So that's how it is, brother-in-law, don't worry, I'll take care of this matter. I will definitely bring you together. I know some of my sister's preferences, I'll tell you when I get back. Su Xiaoyi patted his chest and said confidently. I'm determined to be your sister-in-law. Yi Chen raised his eyebrows. The more he looked at Su Xiaoyi, the more he liked her. Although it was just the first time they met, with these words, Su Xiaoyi, the sister-in-law, won Yi Chen's favor. Having such a beautiful and sensible sister-in-law made Yi Chen feel extremely comfortable. Brother-in-law, you haven't eaten yet? Su Xiaoyi suddenly asked at this time. Not yet. Yi Chen responded subconsciously. Since you haven't eaten yet, I'll treat you. I happen to have a party tonight, so you can go with me. Su Xiaoyi said excitedly. That's not right. This is the first time we meet, so I can't let you treat me. I'd rather treat you. Yi Chen's face was full of as it is right expression. He let his sister-in-law treat him when they met for the first time. If this gets out, how will his brothers look at him? Brother-in-law is really generous. Since you want to treat me, I won't refuse. I will treat you next time. Su Xiaoyi's answer was so clear and concise that Yi Chen even felt cheated. I don't think it would be appropriate for me to join you and your friend's party. Yi Chen showed a hint of hesitation on his face. It's okay, they are all my classmates, so I'll just take them to meet you. Su Xiaoyi excitedly took Yi Chen's hand and dragged him out the door. Yi Chen couldn't refuse Su Xiaoyi's invitation, so he simply followed her out of the villa. Brother-in-law, can you drive? Su Xiaoyi asked. This little thing is not difficult for me. Yi Chen asked casually, which car are you driving? Let's take that Lamborghini for a nice drive at night. We haven't had a day off for a week and I'm dying of boredom. Su Xiaoyi took out the car keys and got into the blue Lamborghini sports car with an excited look on his face. Yi Chen got into the car, shifted gears very skillfully, and stepped on the accelerator hard. The Lamborghini was like a blue beast, rushing out of the parking lot and speeding outside. Alas! Su Xiaoyi sat in the passenger seat, stretched out her arms slightly, and the cool evening breeze blew on her face, making Su Xiaoyi scream with excitement. Where are we going now? Yi Chen turned and asked Su Xiaoyi. I turned on the navigation, brother-in-law, just follow the navigation, and we'll be there soon. Su Xiaoyi said excitedly, brother-in-law, your driving is so exciting. It feels as good as those racing drivers I have seen. Racing driver? Most racing drivers are not as good as your brother-in-law. If you want excitement, just say so. There are more exciting things. A smile appeared on Yi Chen's face, intending to show off in front of Su Xiaoyi. He suddenly stepped on the accelerator, and the Lamborghini suddenly shot out like a rocket. In the face of Yi Chen's superb driving skills, Su Xiaoyi finally saw what a real sports car is. The journey was supposed to take 20 minutes, but Yi Chen reached his destination in less than 10 minutes. After getting off the car, Su Xiaoyi felt his legs were a little shaky. Brother-in-law, you are too fierce. Su Xiaoyi gave Yi Chen a thumbs up, his face turning pale. Although Su Xiaoyi was almost car sick because of Yi Chen's driving skills, he had to admit that Yi Chen's driving skills were the coolest he had ever seen. Are you okay? Yi Chen frowned and a bitter smile appeared on his face. It's okay, it's just a small scene. Su Xiaoyi waved his hands and took a deep breath to relieve the feeling of motion sickness. Let's go, they must be waiting anxiously. Su Xiaoyi took Yi Chen's hand and walked towards the bar in front with an excited look on her face. Red Rose Bar. Yi Chen looked at the bar in front of him and found that it was the bar he had been to yesterday. This Red Rose Bar is one of the most upscale bars in Zhonghai. It has a great atmosphere and is very lively. Let's go quickly or they will rush me. Su Xiaoyi pulled Yi Chen and hurried into the bar. The explosive music and the girls dancing on the dance floor made the atmosphere in the bar extremely lively. Your sister actually allowed you to come to this kind of place. Yi Chen frowned slightly. It's just you and me here, there's no one else. How did my sister know I came to the bar? If my sister knew, it must be you who told her off. Su Xiaoyi said as a matter of course, how could her lovely sister come to a chaotic place like a bar? Then it must be you, brother-in-law, who brought me here. Isn't this obvious? The corner of Yi Chen's mouth twitched slightly. After all this fuss, he is just like a shield. He finally understood the methods of this unruly and willful sister-in-law. High. Very high. If Su Qingcheng really knew that they came to the bar today, Yi Chen was 100% sure that he would take the blame. Su Xiaoyi was definitely pretending to be a good girl in front of Su Qingcheng. It's always honest people like me who get hurt. Yi Chen sighed slightly and let Su Xiaoyi pull her into a private room. Xiaoyi, what time is it? You are late again. This time you must drink 3 cups as punishment. As soon as Su Xiaoyi and Yi Chen walked into the box, a girl couldn't help but complain to Su Xiaoyi. Yi Chen glanced at the box. There were about 10 people, 5 women and 6 men, all of whom looked about the same age as Su Xiaoyi. Something happened temporarily. Su Xiaoyi waved his hand and responded. Xiaoyi, who is this man? A boy looked at Yi Chen who was standing beside him, with a hint of hostility in his eyes. Let me introduce you. This is my brother-in-law. Su Xiaoyi said with a smile. Your brother-in-law. Upon hearing this, several boys breathed a sigh of relief, their eyes suddenly filled with enthusiasm. It's my brother-in-law. Come and sit down. Several boys stood up and greeted him enthusiastically. Yi Chen frowned, a look of helplessness on his face. These boys have such pure motives. Uncle, it's you. At this moment, a girl sitting in the corner stood up and obviously recognized Yi Chen. Yi Chen turned his head and looked over, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. It turned out to be the beautiful girl Ning Tongtong whom he rescued in the bar yesterday. I have to say that Zhonghai is really too small. Chapter 22 Two Women Competing. As Ning Tongtong stood up, everyone's eyes turned to Yi Chen again. Why are you in the bar again? Didn't what happened yesterday teach you a lesson? Yi Chen looked at Ning Tongtong and said unhappily. I came here with my classmates. Su Xiaoyi is here too. Ning Tongtong pouted and said aggrievedly. Brother-in-law, do you know him? Su Xiaoyi frowned slightly, her eyes full of surprise. I met him once in the bar yesterday. Yi Chen said casually. Thanks to you, uncle, for yesterday. If you weren't here, I don't know what bad things those bastards would have done to me. I haven't thanked you properly yesterday. Ning Tongtong showed excitement on her face, and walked forward to hold Yi Chen's hand. Uncle, sit next to me. Today I want to thank you for saving my life yesterday. Ning Tongtong, this is my brother-in-law, he can only sit next to me. Su Xiaoyi looked at Ning Tongtong holding Yi Chen's hand and suddenly felt a little jealous. He grabbed Yi Chen's other hand and shouted at Ning Tongtong angrily. This is my savior, so you should sit next to me. Ning Tongtong snorted, as if she was going to argue with Su Xiaoyi. The boys next to them were all envious as they saw that Ning Tongtong and Su Xiaoyi, 2 beautiful girls, were fighting for the same man. If they could be treated like this, they would do anything. Okay, stop arguing, just sit next to me. Yi Chen showed a helpless look on his face and just sat on the sofa next to him. Snort. Ning Tongtong and Su Xiaoyi looked at each other, snorted, and sat on both sides of Yi Chen. As Ning Tongtong and Su Xiaoyi sat on both sides of Yi Chen, the faces of the boys in the box all looked a little strange. Wenlin, something seems to be wrong. Tong Tong is getting a little close to this guy. A boy in white casual clothes nudged the boy next to him and whispered. He is Xiaoyi's brother-in-law, not an outsider. Yang Wenlin frowned and said softly. Having said that, Yang Wenlin still looked a little unhappy when he saw Ning Tongtong and Yi Chen being intimate. He has been pursuing Ning Tongtong for so long that the whole school knows about it. But until now, Ning Tongtong hasn't even let him touch her hand. Now that Ning Tongtong and Yi Chen are so close, even though Yang Wenlin knows that there is nothing between Yi Chen and Ning Tongtong, he still feels a little uncomfortable. Yang Wenlin looked at the wine bottle on the table, a hint of interest flashed in his eyes. He picked up the wine glass on the table and walked over. Uncle, you and Xiaoyi are both late. You have to drink 3 cups as punishment for being late. This rule cannot be broken. Yang Wenlin smiled and said, Xiaoyi, why don't you let uncle take care of these 3 cups for me? Are you still drinking? Yi Chen frowned. It's just beer, it's not intoxicating. It would be a waste if you don't drink a couple of glasses when you come here. Yang Wenlin smiled and said, Uncle, can you not drink? Yang Wenlin, who are you looking down on? Su Xiaoyi listened to the sarcasm in Yang Wenlin's words and said unhappily. Xiaoyi, you can't protect him just because he's your brother-in-law. It was you who set the rule of drinking 3 cups as a punishment for being late. A girl nearby stood up and started to make a noise. That's right, Xiaoyi, you can't break the rules. The other people in the box followed suit and made a fuss. 3 cups, right? No problem. Now that he was here, Yi Chen naturally couldn't spoil everyone's fun. Picking up the wine glass on the table, Yi Chen drank 3 glasses in a row. Uncle has a good alcohol tolerance. Ning Tongtong clapped her hands, her eyes full of admiration. Yang Wenlin frowned, not expecting that Yi Chen would be in the spotlight again. Uncle, this is our first meeting. I want to toast you. Yang Wenlin picked up the bottle, poured himself a glass, and toasted Yi Chen. You are not very old, and drinking too much is not good for your health. Yi Chen frowned. Uncle, you're not scared, are you? You only drank 3 glasses of wine, which is only a little more than a bottle. Uncle, you can't drink that much. A boy next to him said to Yi Chen with ill intentions. That's right. We finally come to the bar. Uncle, you can't spoil the fun. The men and women nearby started to make a noise. Uncle, I'll drink first as a sign of respect. Yang Wenlin drank the wine in the glass in one gulp. That's true. Now that we're here, we can't spoil everyone's fun. A smile appeared on Yi Chen's face. He picked up the wine glass and drank it all in one gulp. Uncle, you have a good alcohol tolerance. I'll toast you a glass as well. A boy next to him came over with a wine glass and drank it in one gulp. Gao Mingliang, what do you mean? Are you going to fight in a round-robin battle? At this time, Su Xiaoyi looked at the boy with an unhappy expression. If you want to drink, I'll drink with you. Ning Tongtong was not willing to be outdone at this time, so he picked up the bottle and poured himself a glass. You 2 little girls should stop drinking, especially you, Xiaoyi. If you drink too much and your sister finds out, what happened today will be exposed. Yi Chen picked up the wine glass and chuckled, let's drink, right? I'll drink with you. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Chen drank the wine in the glass in one gulp. Uncle is straightforward. We are now friends today. Yang Wenlin smiled and winked at the boys next to him. Uncle, let me toast you. Several boys nearby held up their wine glasses and toasted Yi Chen one by one. Yi Chen accepted everyone who came and drank a cup for each person, clean and neat. Including the previous 3 cups, Yi Chen drank 9 cups in a row without changing his expression, as if he was drinking plain water. Uncle has a good alcohol tolerance, let's drink to our heart's content today. Yang Wenlin and the others were competing with Yi Chen, drinking 1 cup after another. The girls nearby were watching Yi Chen and the boys drinking together, their faces full of excitement. They watched the game with great interest and even helped pour wine for everyone. Yi Chen drank 3 rounds of wine without changing his expression. On the contrary, Yang Wenlin and his companions felt a little bloated in their stomachs. After all, beer is not liquor. Although it is not intoxicating, it makes you feel full. After a few glasses of beer, some boys who were not good at drinking felt their stomachs were bloated. How can this guy drink so much? Several boys gritted their teeth, feeling like they were in a difficult situation. Each of them drank 3 glasses of wine with Chen, and the other party drank more than 20 glasses, almost a dozen bottles of beer. No matter how much you drink, you will get sick if you drink so much beer in one breath. But when everyone looked at Chen, he didn't look like he was broken at all. He didn't even go to the toilet. Brothers, hold on. He is about to collapse. He is just holding on. If he drinks a few more cups, he will definitely collapse. We can't let him collapse in front of Xiaoyi and the others. Yang Wenlin gritted his teeth and whispered to the boys next to him. There are quite a few girls in this box. Although they are not as pretty as Su Xiaoyi and Ning Tongtong, they are also beauties. The other boys are all chasing after these girls. How can I do this if I lose face in front of my loved one? A smile appeared on Yi Chen's face at this time. Although Yang Wenlin and his companion spoke very quietly, they could not escape his ears. These little brats actually want to compete with him in drinking and want to get him drunk. It's like showing off your sword in front of Guangong, overestimating your own abilities. Chapter 23. Are you convinced? Things had come to this point, which was really beyond the expectations of Yang Wenlin and others. They also didn't expect that Yi Chen could drink so much. The 6 boys couldn't even drink as much as Yi Chen alone. This is not white wine. Beer is not about drinking capacity, but about the stomach. Even among those who can drink, they have never seen anyone drink more than 10 bottles of beer in one go without even going to the toilet. Yang Wenlin didn't believe that a man Su Xiaoyi brought with him casually could have a drinking capacity comparable to that of the god of wine. This guy has definitely reached his limit, and is probably just holding on. Uncle, I'll toast you another glass. Yang Wenlin gritted his teeth, raised his glass and toasted Yi Chen. It's no fun to drink one cup after another. Let's drink from the bottle, 1 bottle each. Yi Chen had no interest in continuing to drink with these little brats, so he just drank directly from the bottle, refreshingly and directly. Blowing into the bottle. Yang Wenlin was stunned for a moment, and a hint of hesitation flashed in his eyes. With his stomach about to burst, this is really stressful for the bottle blower. Yang Wenlin didn't even know if he could drink the bottle of beer in one breath. But if you retreat like this, you might fall into Yi Chen's trap. This guy probably couldn't drink anymore, so he wanted to use this excuse to avoid the fight. Okay, then let's blow into the bottle. Yang Wenlin gritted his teeth and accepted Yi Chen's declaration of war. Brother-in-law, can you do this? At this time, Su Xiaoyi looked at Yi Chen, who remained calm, with a hint of worry on his face. Yi Chen drank several times more beer than others. If he continued to drink, Su Xiaoyi would be a little worried about Yi Chen. As a man, the last thing you can do is say that you are not good enough, don't you think? Yi Chen looked at Yang Wenlin in front of him, chuckled, picked up a bottle of beer, and drank it directly from the bottle. With a gurgling sound, Yi Chen drank the bottle of beer in one gulp. It's your turn. Yi Chen gestured to Yang Wenlin with the empty bottle in his hand. Yang Wenlin, it's your turn now. You can't fail, can you? Ning Tongtong cheered on the side. Who's down? As if stimulated by Ning Tongtong's words, Yang Wenlin's face flushed, and he picked up a bottle of beer and started blowing into the bottle. It took Yang Wenlin a full minute to finish the bottle of beer. His stomach was so bloated that it felt like a football was stuffed in it. After burping several times, I finally suppressed the urge to vomit. You can drink quite well, all of you, come and drink together. Yi Chen picked up another bottle of beer and gestured to the other boys. Gao Mingliang, you were the one who kept making trouble just now. It's your turn now. Su Xiaoyi pointed at Gao Mingliang standing beside him with excitement. That's right, Uncle has already drunk, it's your turn, isn't it? Uncle will beat all of you today. Ning Tongtong stood up excitedly at this time, as if she was fighting these boys in a round-robin battle. Gao Mingliang showed a bitter smile on his face, feeling like he had been cheated. Gao Mingliang, you are not a coward, a man can't say he is not good enough. Several girls nearby were also making a fuss. Gao Mingliang, we can't let people look down on us. Yang Wenlin encouraged Gao Mingliang from the side, he is definitely going to fail, you guys hurry up. At this point, Gao Mingliang and his people had no way out. They gritted their teeth, picked up the bottle and started drinking. Halfway through drinking, Gao Mingliang's face turned red and he spat out a mouthful of beer. I can't do it anymore. I give up. Gao Mingliang waved his hand and rushed to the toilet. Not long after, the the sound of Gao Mingliang vomiting was heard in the toilet. The other boys were also drunk and some even lay on the sofa like a pregnant woman, unable to move. Do you still want to drink? Yi Chen looked at Yang Wenlin, the only one standing, with a smile on his face. I won't drink anymore. I give up. Yang Wenlin showed a bitter smile on his face. Yi Chen has been drinking until now, but his expression remains unchanged, as if nothing happened. If he didn't know that he was meeting a tough guy, he would be a fool. I'm afraid that even if he finds a few people, they still can't drink as much as Yi Chen alone. You are still so young, but you don't study hard and you learn to drink like others. This is a lesson for you. Let's see if you will drink again next time. Yi Chen took out a cigarette from his pocket, lit it, and scolded Yang Wenlin casually. Yang Wenlin was about to speak when he suddenly felt his stomach churning. He waved his hand and rushed to the toilet. Uncle, you are so amazing. Ning Tongtong's face was full of excitement at this time. She knew how much Yang Wenlin and others could drink. There are few people in school who can drink more than Yang Wenlin. Yi Chen actually knocked down Yang Wenlin and several other boys by himself. His alcohol tolerance is simply appalling. Brother-in-law, do you have a wine purifier in your stomach? You can drink so much. Su Xiaoyi touched Yi Chen's belly and asked subconsciously. You just put a wine purifier in your stomach, can this thing fit in your stomach? Yi Chen glared at Su Xiaoyi unhappily. This girl is just talking nonsense. Several girls nearby also looked at Yi Chen with admiration. Just the drinking capacity that Yi Chen showed made these girls feel very excited. The round-robin match swept so many boys. It has to be said that this is already very attractive to little girls like these. If Su Xiaoyi and Ning Tongtong hadn't been protecting Yi Chen, they would have pounced on him long ago. Even so, Yi Chen became the protagonist in the box, and girls rushed to chat with him. The boys standing by were extremely envious. If you can't drink as much as others, it would be a complete loss of face if you interrupt them. The box suddenly fell into an awkward situation. After a while, Yang Wenlin came out of the toilet in the box and looked much better. Yang Wenlin, do you want to drink? Su Xiaoyi looked at Yang Wenlin, who walked in, and said with a smile. No more drinking, no more drinking. I admit defeat. Yang Wenlin waved his hands and begged for mercy repeatedly. Yi Chen's stomach was simply not that of a human. If he drank any more, he might not even be able to walk out of the box. It's not easy to get here, let's go to the dance floor and have some fun. Yang Wenlin suggested at this time. Now that Yi Chen has snatched the limelight, there is no point in staying in the box. Several girls were surrounding Yi Chen, and they had no idea where to start. Brother Yang's suggestion is good, let's go to the dance floor and have some fun. Several boys nearby echoed. Okay, let's go to the dance floor and have some fun. Several girls were also interested. With everyone's unanimous agreement, several people walked out of the box, entered the dance floor and started partying. The explosive music stimulated the drunkenness and made everyone dance wildly on the dance floor. At this moment, a young man stared at Ning Tongtong and Yi Chen for a few seconds, then quickly walked out of the Red Rose Bar. Chapter 24. When enemies meet, they become jealous of each other. After the man walked out of the Red Rose Bar, he took out his cell phone and made a call. Brother Long, the target has appeared. The person you are looking for has appeared in the red bar. The man said excitedly. Hold it for me, I'll be right there. A cold voice came from the phone, and then the man responded and hung up. Not long after, a van appeared near the Red Rose Bar. Zhao Qianlong got out of the van with Scar Brother and a few others. Is the person inside? Zhao Qianlong, holding a cigarette in his mouth, looked at the younger brother in front of him casually. Brother Long, it's right inside. I looked at it several times and I'm definitely not mistaken. The younger brother nodded hurriedly and looked at Zhao Qianlong with fear. As a capable and powerful general under Cao Shijie, Zhao Qianlong is very powerful and ferocious. Anyone who dares to provoke him will at least end up crippled. Even these younger brothers did not dare to offend Zhao Qianlong. If any words made him unhappy and Zhao Qianlong crippled them, no one would give them an explanation. Let's go. The boss doesn't have much time left. Let's get rid of him as soon as possible, so that the boss won't say that we are not doing our job well. Zhao Qianlong blew out a smoke ring and squinted his eyes. Brother Long, this is Lin Hongyue's territory. If we just enter his factory and take someone away, I'm afraid Lin Hongyu won't just sit there and watch. Scar brother frowned and said hesitantly. So what about Lin Hongyu? This guy is someone the boss wanted personally. Even if Lin Hongyu showed up in person, she couldn't save her. I want to see how strong Lin Hongyu is. Zhao Qianlong snorted coldly, with a murderous look in his eyes. Brother Long, Lin Hongyu is a famous beauty in Zhonghai. With Brother Long's strength, he might be able to subdue Lin Hongyu today. The younger brother at the side said in a flattering manner. Stop bragging, this Lin Hongyu is the one that the boss likes, you guys should be careful with your words. Zhao Qianlong slapped the younger brother who spoke on the side on the head and cursed angrily. Yes, Brother Long, we said the wrong thing. The younger brother beside him apologized tremblingly. Come on, follow me in. Zhao Qianlong threw the cigarette butt in his hand on the ground and walked into the Red Rose Bar first. At the same time, Chen was playing with Su Xiaoyi and Ning Tongtong on the dance floor. The dance floor was very chaotic, especially with beauties like Su Xiaoyi and Ning Tongtong, making many people feel itchy. If I don't keep close watch on them, who knows what will happen? This was the first time he came out with Su Xiaoyi. If anything happened to Su Xiaoyi, he would not be able to explain to Su Qingcheng. Brother-in-law, why don't you jump? Su Xiaoyi danced to the music with excitement on her face. Just jump. Chen shook his head with a wry smile on his face. The environment of the bar completely inspired Su Xiaoyi's soul. This look of reveling to the music was completely different from the ladylike look she had when he first met Su Xiaoyi. Her sister-in-law is also a willful and capricious beauty. While Chen was playing with Su Xiaoyi on the dance floor, Zhao Qianlong, Scar and others walked into the Red Rose Bar. Under the guidance of the younger brother who was following them, they soon saw Chen and others in the crowd. The chick from yesterday is here too. This guy is really lucky with women. The chicks around him are really pretty. Scar's gaze swept over Su Xiaoyi and Ning Tongtong who were near Chen, and a hint of greed flashed in his eyes. After I've enjoyed it, you all will have a share. Zhao Qianlong raised a lewd smile. With Zhao Qianlong's status in Zhonghai, he has no shortage of women. However, Zhao Qianlong had never enjoyed the company of such a top-notch beauty. Not only did Zhao Qianlong complete the task assigned by Cao Shijie, but he also received 2 beautiful girls for free. He felt extremely happy. Thank you, Brother Long. The younger brothers next to them showed a look of surprise on their faces and looked at Su Xiaoyi and others greedily. Brother Long, I'll go and bring this kid over for you. Scar brother looked at the beauties around Chen and suddenly became distracted. He rushed to the dance floor with a few of his brothers. A young boy with dyed red hair was walking in the front. He was obviously aroused and couldn't help but put his arm around one of Su Xiaoyi's female classmates. Little beauty, you are playing alone, do you want your brother to accompany you? The young man said with a lewd smile on his face. Get out of here, you rascal. A look of panic appeared on the beautiful lady's face, and she subconsciously pushed the red-haired boy away. Little sister, you have good taste. You recognized me at the first sight. It seems that we are destined to be together. I like strong beauties like you. It's more fun to play with you this way. The red-haired boy had a sly smile on his face. Who are you? You're so disgusting. A hint of disgust flashed across the beautiful woman's eyes, and she moved towards Yang Wenlin and the others. Xiaoshan, what's going on? At this time, Yang Wenlin also saw the red-haired little brother beside him and hurried forward. This guy is harassing me. The beautiful girl named Xiaoshan pointed at the red-haired gangster. When Yang Wenlin and the others heard this, they immediately showed a look of anger on their faces. How dare you harass Xiaoshan? Get out of here right now, or we will be rude to you. Yang Wenlin stretched his arms and legs and said with a gloomy face. Although Yang Wenlin and his companions are still students, they are tall and strong. When they gather together, they are still quite intimidating. But the red-haired gangster was obviously not alone. Facing Yang Wenlin and the others, a look of disdain immediately appeared on his face. How dare you, a bunch of brats, talk to me like that? Believe it or not, I will destroy you today. Scar came over with a few of his brothers and looked at Yang Wenlin and others ferociously. Is it you? Ning Tongtong recognized Scar at this time and a look of surprise appeared on his face. Little beauty, we meet again. I let you run away yesterday, but you can't run away today. Scar looked at Ning Tongtong with a lewd smile on his face. Ning Tongtong's expression suddenly changed, but when she thought that Yi Chen was right next to her, she immediately felt relieved. Uncle, the bad guy from yesterday is here again. At this time, Ning Tongtong shouted to Su Xiaoyi and Yi Chen, who were not far away. Yi Chen had already seen Scar and the others by this time. He narrowed his eyes, and a grim look flashed in his eyes. How dare you come here again? It seems that the lesson I taught you yesterday was not enough. Yi Chen narrowed his eyes and said indifferently. Boy, you dare to attack your Scar brother. Don't you see whose territory this Zhonghai belongs to? I'm not afraid to tell you, you won't be able to leave this bar today. Scar brother looked at Yi Chen, his eyes full of resentment. When enemies meet, they are extremely jealous of each other. Yesterday Yi Chen beat him up in front of so many people. If Scar doesn't get his revenge, how can he continue to survive in the underworld? Chapter 25, Send you on your way. As Scar brother made the harsh words, the younger brothers beside him immediately looked at Yi Chen fiercely. You little brat, why don't you ask who owns Zhonghai and go against us in Zhonghai? Even gods can't save you today. Brother Long is here in person today, I want to see how good you are at fighting. The little brother with dyed red hair snorted coldly, with a smug look on his face. When Yang Wenlin and others heard this, they immediately felt that something was wrong. It was obvious that these people were coming for Yi Chen and Ning Tongtong. If it was Yi Chen's personal vendetta, they could completely ignore it. But since Ning Tongtong is involved, they have no choice but to intervene in the matter. Tongtong, don't be afraid. It's just a fight. We brothers are not afraid of anyone when we fight. Yang Wenlin snorted coldly, without any fear on his face. They had already drunk some wine and were at an age when they could easily get drunk. Under the threat of Scar and his men, a surge of blood suddenly filled my heart. Hey, you young boys, you want to fight with me? When I was a gangster, you guys were just playing in the mud. Scar brother sneered and did not take Yang Wenlin and others seriously at all. A group of immature boys who looked like students. If Scar and his men were afraid of these people, they would have been destroyed on the street long ago. Who among those who have made a name for themselves in the underworld doesn't he have blood on his hands? Who the hell are you talking about? Brothers, let's take action and destroy them today to get Xiaoshan back. Yang Wenlin and others' expressions changed slightly. Being humiliated by these people in front of several girls, how can they survive in school if they don't say anything? Isn't it just a fight? Who hasn't had a fight? Taking advantage of the alcohol, Yang Wenlin and others stepped forward and surrounded Scar and his men. Damn it, a few brats are trying to show off with your grandpa here. The little brother with dyed red hair showed a fierce look on his face, and he took out the knife behind his back. Who's taking a step towards your grandfather? The red-haired man held a machete and pointed it at Yang Wenlin and others. Yang Wenlin looked at the knife in Hong Mao's hand and his expression suddenly changed. We agreed to fight with bare hands, but he suddenly took out a knife. This is simply cheating. This group of students were fighting. When had they ever seen such a long knife? If this knife were to chop him down, I'm afraid his arm would be chopped off. Although Yang Wenlin and the others were not afraid of fighting, they were suddenly shocked when they saw the long sword, and the drunkenness dissipated a lot. When the girls nearby saw the weapon in the red-haired boy's hand, they screamed and hugged each other. Their faces turned pale and their eyes were full of fear. You can scream, right? Keep screaming and see if the blade in your grandfather's hand is sharp. A ferocious smile appeared on the red-haired man's face, as if he was enjoying the fearful looks on Yang Wenlin and the others' faces. All of you, kneel on the ground, or I won't guarantee that your hands and feet will remain intact today. A gangster pointed at Yang Wenlin and others and sneered. I'll count to 5. If you don't kneel, don't blame me for being rude. The red-haired gangster sneered. Do you know who my father is? If you dare to touch me, my father will not forgive you. Yang Wenlin gritted his teeth and shouted in a deep voice. Who do I care who your father is? I'm going to destroy you today. Even if your father is capable, go find Boss Cow. I'm afraid your father is also a loser and probably won't dare to find Boss Cow. Scar sneered, not caring about Yang Wenlin's threat at all. Boss Cow. Are you Cao Shijie's men? Yang Wenlin had obviously heard of the name of Boss Cow, and he recognized who Boss Cow was at the first moment. Although they are still students and have never been involved in gangs. However, they had come into contact with many gangsters in the underworld, and they had heard of Cao Shijie's reputation. This is a famous hero in Zhonghai. Although they are rich second generations, they are probably no match for a famous tyrant like Cao Shijie. Brother-in-law, something is wrong. These people actually have knives, and they seem to be Cao Shijie's men. Do you want to ask my sister for help? There was some fear in Su Xiaoyi's eyes at this time, and he subconsciously moved closer to Yi Chen. It's okay, you stay here. If you let your sister handle such a small matter, wouldn't it make me, your brother-in-law, look weak? Yi Chen smiled, patted Su Xiaoyi's hand, and then walked towards the red-haired man. Have you finished talking nonsense? If you're done, I'll send you on your way. Yi Chen's face was full of coldness, and he walked straight towards the red-haired man. You're looking for death, you little brat. A fierce light flashed in the red-haired man's eyes, and he slashed directly at Yi Chen with a machete in his hand. The girl next to him screamed. She didn't expect that the red-haired man would actually dare to swing a knife at someone. A fierce look flashed in Yi Chen's eyes, and he suddenly stretched out his hand and directly grasped the red-haired man's wrist. As Yi Chen exerted a little force with his right hand, there was a cracking sound, and the red-haired man's wrist was broken by Yi Chen. Arr! Red Hair screamed in pain. The severe pain made him unable to even hold the knife in his hand. The broken bones even pierced the skin, looking extremely strange under the light. That's not how you use a knife. Yi Chen loosened his hand, directly grasped the long knife that had slipped down, and kicked the red-haired man in front of him away. Scar and the others didn't even see how Yi Chen did it. Red Hair was directly crippled by Yi Chen, and even the knife fell into Yi Chen's hands. Come on, whoever kills him will be rewarded handsomely by Brother Long and Boss Cow. Scar seemed to recall the last time Yi Chen took action. A hint of fear flashed in his eyes, and he called on several younger brothers beside him to take action. Come together, no matter how powerful his martial arts skills are, we will destroy him. Several younger brothers looked at each other, a fierce look flashed in their eyes, they pulled out weapons from their backs, and rushed directly towards Yi Chen. One hand each. This is the price you pay for angering me today. A fierce look flashed in Yi Chen's eyes, and his figure appeared in the crowd like a ghost, and he suddenly swung the long sword in his hand. A flash of cold light flashed before everyone's eyes, and then Scar saw the gangster closest to him, the hand holding the weapon separated directly from the arm. Blood splattered all over the ground. Arr! My hand! Accompanied by screams, the gangsters fell to the ground and screamed while holding their severed hands. You should be thankful that you are not on the battlefield, otherwise, today would be the anniversary of your death. Yi Chen looked at the group of thugs lying on the ground, his eyes filled with extremely cold murderous intent. Scar looked at Yi Chen and suddenly felt a chill in his heart, his eyes filled with fear. He killed so cleanly and efficiently, especially with murderous intent in his eyes. Scar had no doubt that the man in front of him had definitely killed someone before. Only a man who was extremely indifferent to life would have such a look. Scar had only seen this kind of indifference in Cao Shijie's eyes. Chapter 26 Zhao Qianlong's Fist. Just as Yi Chen took action, Lin Hongyu and others also appeared on the second floor of the bar. What a sharp knife, what a cruel hand. Brother Lu stared at Yi Chen in the distance, a serious look flashing in his eyes. Their knife is fast, which means the opponent is a martial artist with high skills. The fact that he was ruthless showed that he was not a simple person. He would break people's arms at will, and his expression didn't change at all, which showed that he had fought many life and death battles. The murderous aura emanating from Yi Chen even made Brother Lu feel a strong sense of oppression. This is the murderous aura that can only be cultivated on the battlefield. In this vast city, even some masters who have practiced kung fu for decades, although their martial arts may not be weaker than Yi Chen, their murderous aura is definitely not comparable to Yi Chen. This man is a ruthless character. It seems that a remarkable person has emerged in our Zhonghai. Lin Hongyu took a deep breath, her charming eyes full of seriousness. Sister Hongyu, should we take action? Lin Meng asked in a deep voice. No hurry, Zhao Qianlong is here. It seems Cao Shijie wants to test me, otherwise he wouldn't let Zhao Qianlong come in person. I want to see who is stronger between Zhao Qianlong and this man. Lin Hongyu shook her head slightly, a faint smile appearing on the corner of her mouth. Although this is her place, since she can see such a good show, there is no need for Lin Hongyu to take action. No matter who wins, Lin Hongyu can accept it. If Zhao Qianlong really wins, Lin Hongyu will naturally take action. If Yi Chen wins, Cao Shijie will lose a general, which is what Lin Hongyu wants. Miss, if this person really beats Zhao Qianlong, I'm afraid there will be many variables in Zhonghai. A master with such strong strength is most afraid of others plotting against him. Brother Lu suddenly spoke. Don't worry, I will take care of this matter. Lin Hongyu narrowed her eyes, and a sharp look flashed in her eyes. While Lin Hongyu and others were talking, Zhao Qianlong was at the edge of the dance floor and saw Yi Chen take action with his own eyes. A solemn look flashed in his eyes. Between masters, one can tell the strength of the other party just by the moment of making a move. It has to be said that although Yi Chen had never fought with him, just based on the few moves Yi Chen made, Zhao Qianlong knew that Yi Chen's strength was not simple. Interesting, Zhonghai actually has such a master. Is he Lin Hongyu's man? Zhao Qianlong muttered to himself, his eyes filled with a strong desire to fight. Many masters died at the hands of Zhao Qianlong. The stronger the master, the more he could arouse Zhao Qianlong's murderous intent. Only by fighting to the death with such a master can he improve his martial arts. This is also the martial arts and status that Zhao Qianlong has honed with his life along the way. Brother Long, help me. Scar looked at the murderous intent in Yi Chen's eyes at this time, felt his whole body trembling, and hurriedly ran to Zhao Qianlong's side. Waste. A fierce look flashed in Zhao Qianlong's eyes. He slapped Scar on the face and then strode towards Yi Chen. Is this Zhao Qianlong? Oh my god, why is this guy here? This guy is one of the best masters under Cao Shijie. He actually came to the Red Rose Bar. Could he be coming for Lin Hongyu? The crowd watching near the dance floor immediately discovered Zhao Qianlong's identity. A man's fame is like the shadow of a tree. Anyone who lives in Zhonghai Road knows Zhao Qianlong. These young people actually provoked Zhao Qianlong, and many people showed a look of pity towards Yi Chen and others. Few people who are targeted by Zhao Qianlong have a good ending. It's a pity for these beauties. I'm afraid they will be ruined by Zhao Qianlong. You are quite a character. I didn't expect that Lin Hongyu could find a master like you. My trip was not in vain. Zhao Qianlong looked at Yi Chen with a crazy smile on his face. Who is Lin Hongyu? I don't know her. Yi Chen frowned and said calmly, it seems that you are their boss. Are you going to help them? These losers are not worthy of my attack. If they are defeated, it is their fault for not learning the skills well enough. However, you have provoked the wrong people, and the boss has personally named you and wants your life. You can only consider yourself unlucky. Zhao Qianlong said calmly. Want my life? Many people have wanted to kill me, but they all went to hell in the end. If you want to kill me, it depends on whether you have the ability to do so. Yi Chen raised the corner of his mouth with a faint smile. Okay, you are very arrogant. I like people like you who are so arrogant. I will personally break your teeth later. I wonder if your mouth will still be as hard as it is now. Zhao Qianlong grinned, a hint of crazy murderous intent flashed in his eyes. He took a step forward, and punched Yi Chen directly. The fist has not arrived yet, but the strong wind has arrived. Zhao Qianlong threw a punch, and the air around him even made a sound of breaking through the air. This is because the fist force has reached its peak and will tear the surrounding air apart, causing this sound of breaking through the air. You've developed strong energy. Interesting. Yi Chen raised his eyebrows, and a bright light flashed in his eyes. This was the first time Yi Chen saw a master in Zhonghai who had mastered the power of qi. Although existence of this level is nothing to Yi Chen. However, masters who can develop their energy can be considered to have stepped into the threshold of martial arts. This kind of person is considered a master even in the military. I didn't expect to encounter someone of this level in this small bar. But with this level of strength, you dare to punch me. You really overestimate your own abilities. A fierce look flashed in Yi Chen's eyes. He slowly raised his right hand and grabbed Zhao Qianlong's fist. Zhao Qianlong looked at Yi Chen's casual attack, a fierce look flashed in his eyes, and the strength of his fist suddenly increased by 3 points, hitting Yi Chen's palm directly. An invisible force burst out from the fists of Zhao Qianlong and Yi Chen, making a roaring sound. Even the music in the bar couldn't completely block out the sound of the collision. Yi Chen stood still and blocked Zhao Qianlong's punch. Zhao Qianlong felt like he had punched an iron plate. The strong recoil force made Zhao Qianlong feel his fist numb. Is this all your strength? A hint of indifference flashed across Yi Chen's eyes. Zhao Qianlong felt extremely humiliated when he looked at Yi Chen, and he immediately fell into a state of madness. Dragon fist. Zhao Qianlong growled and suddenly pulled out his right fist. All the strength of his body seemed to be concentrated on his right fist. Zhao Qianlong's right arm seemed to have swelled slightly, with blue veins exposed on his right arm, which looked extremely scary. The next moment, Zhao Qianlong threw another punch. The whistling fist wind was like a dragon's roar, tearing apart the surrounding air. Stubborn. A sharp look flashed in Yi Chen's eyes, and he also raised his right fist and punched forward. With a snap, Yi Chen's right fist and Zhao Qianlong's right fist collided with each other. A powerful force exploded from the fists of the two men. The next moment, Zhao Qianlong's face changed. He felt an extremely strong force passing through Yi Chen's fist and directly hitting his right arm. With a swish sound, the clothes on Zhao Qianlong's right arm were torn to pieces by a powerful force. A crisp sound of fracture came from Zhao Qianlong's right arm. The blood vessels and bones in Zhao Qianlong's right arm burst directly under Yi Chen's punch, and blood splattered everywhere. Zhao Qianlong screamed miserably, and was sent flying by Yi Chen's punch. He flew for dozens of meters before falling on the edge of the dance floor, screaming while covering his twisted arm. The next moment, the entire bar seemed to fall silent. Everyone looked at Yi Chen in a daze, their eyes full of horror. Chapter 27: An Unexpected Encounter. Quick! This battle was so fast. It was so fast that no one could react and Zhao Qianlong was already lying on the ground. Such an amazing scene shocked everyone. Even ordinary people who have no understanding of martial arts can know Yi Chen's fighting ability. After all, being able to knock a man weighing nearly 200 pounds dozens of meters away with just one punch is something that not an ordinary strongman can do. Oh my god, is this uncle really Superman? Isn't this a movie? Gao Mingliang swallowed, his face full of disbelief. The fighting power displayed by Yi Chen is even comparable to that in Marvel movies. Is this really the power that humans can unleash? My brother-in-law is mighty and domineering. At this time, Su Xiaoyi's face turned red with excitement, and he clapped wildly, unable to control his excitement. Even these ordinary people were so shocked, not to mention Lin Hongyu and others on the second floor. He actually killed Zhao Qianlong in seconds. Is this a joke? Lin Meng swallowed, unable to believe what she saw. Zhao Qianlong is a capable and powerful general under Cao Shijie, and is also a well-known figure in Zhonghai. Being crippled by just one punch from Yi Chen was completely beyond their expectations. Such powerful strength has exceeded their expectations of Yi Chen. Brother Xiaolu, can you defeat this Qianlong move with one punch? Lin Hongyu took a deep breath and looked at the man beside her. It's difficult. After all, Zhao Qianlong is Cao Shijie's right-hand man. Cao Shijie sent him here to test me. Although I am confident that I can defeat Zhao Qianlong, I am not sure that I can kill him instantly. Brother Lu frowned and said in a deep voice, this man's strength is probably beyond our expectations. I am not sure I can defeat him. Little brother Lu, even you are not sure you can beat him. Lin Meng's face was full of surprise at this time. Even if it was Cao Shijie, brother Lu was not afraid at all, but when facing the man in front of him, brother Lu actually said that he was not sure. Brother Lu usually speaks very strictly. The fact that he can say such words obviously shows that Yi Chen's strength has put a lot of pressure on him. Between masters, only a fight can tell who will win. This person obviously didn't show his true strength, so it's hard to say who will win. Brother Lu shook his head and said in a deep voice, I didn't expect that such a strong man would come to the Red Rose Bar. I don't know what he is up to. Miss, you must act with caution. I understand. Lin Hongyu nodded, with a strange look in her eyes. The sudden appearance of such a strong man, who also has a grudge against Cao Shijie, is more dangerous than an opportunity for her. Now Cao Shijie is extremely ambitious and even has the tendency to swallow her up. The appearance of a master like Yi Chen has disrupted the situation in Zhonghai. However, it is extremely difficult for her to recruit a strong person of this level. Even because this place is her territory, she might be implicated by Zhao Qianlong and others. Now we can only take one step at a time. Scar brother looked at Zhao Qianlong lying on the ground and felt a chill in his heart. I thought I was just dealing with a young boy, but I didn't expect that the other party was actually a dragon crossing the river. Even a strong man like Zhao Qianlong was defeated by the other party. Scar brother even had a feeling that he was about to die. Yi Chen walked to Zhao Qianlong's side and looked down at Zhao Qianlong lying on the ground. Who asked you to come? Who wants to buy my life? Yi Chen said indifferently. You want me to betray my brothers? The most taboo thing for gangsters is betraying their brothers. You can't get any information from me. Zhao Qianlong gritted his teeth and roared in a hoarse voice. It seems you don't want to talk about it. Yi Chen's eyes were full of indifference, and he stepped on Zhao Qianlong's thigh. With a crack, Zhao Qianlong's right leg was broken by Yi Chen's step. Zhao Qianlong screamed, and beads of sweat the size of beans appeared on his forehead. Zhao Qianlong clenched his teeth tightly. The severe pain caused his gums to bleed due to the force. The intense pain made Zhao Qianlong's consciousness a little blurred. You are lucky today. My sister-in-law is here. I don't want too much blood here, so I'll spare your life. Since you don't want to tell me, that's fine. Your boss is Cao Shijie, right? I'll go find him, and then everything will be clear. There was a hint of cold murderous intent in Yi Chen's eyes. Although he had never met Cao Shijie, the other party's actions angered Yi Chen. If anyone offends me, I will repay him tenfold. This is Yi Chen's principle of action. Although he guessed who wanted to kill him, he still had to confirm the other party's identity from Cao Shijie. He also wanted to see who Cao Shijie was. Being able to have a subordinate like Zhao Qianlong who has just begun to show his power, Cao Shijie's strength should be able to satisfy him. Give Cao Shijie a message. I will come to his house in person. I hope he can give me a reasonable explanation when the time comes. Yi Chen looked at Scar Brother standing aside, a hint of indifference flashed in his eyes. Scar Brother saw the cold look in Yi Chen's eyes and suddenly felt his whole body tremble. He was unable to move and could only nod subconsciously. Everyone, don't move. At this moment, a loud shout suddenly rang out in the bar. I saw a group of police officers rushing into the bar and surrounding the dance floor. As early as when Yi Chen and Zhao Qianlong had a conflict, someone had already called the police directly. However, these people were obviously not as fast as Yi Chen. Before the police arrived, Zhao Qianlong and others had already been dealt with by Yi Chen. The group of policemen looked at the slightly bloody scene. Some of them who had never seen the world turned pale. The blood splattered everywhere, even mixed with broken hands, irritated their nerves. You, hold your head and squat down. Don't move. The leading female police officer pointed at Yi Chen and shouted loudly. Yi Chen frowned, feeling that the voice was somewhat familiar, and subconsciously turned his head to look at the policewoman not far away. It's you? Yi Chen raised his eyebrows and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Isn't he this policewoman the Shuxianyang whom he met at the breakfast shop this morning? This Zhonghai is too small. It's you? At this time, Shuxianyang also saw Yi Chen's appearance clearly and recognized him immediately, with a hint of surprise on her face. Officer Shu, what a coincidence, we meet again. A smile appeared on Yi Chen's face. Don't be so playful with me here. Stand still. You are in my hands. Shuxianyang looked at Yi Chen with a sneer on her face. Today is really a good day, revenge doesn't need to be delayed.